Chapter 1401 Heaven and Earth II. Taoist Master Xuanyi departed in haste as the disturbances in the north subsided. Ningguan turned with a smile and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoist. Seeing you unharmed is worth celebrating. After all, the five-eyed one went with many of the merciful ones, which was no small trouble." As for Nguyen, he was a senior brother of Nuzi, who has now become a Maha. His status was not low, yet you still sent him back to the Buddhist land. Whether Nuxeo or Nguyen, they were far more formidable than those under Daisy who could barely cast any spells. I saw at least 3 treasure artifacts and 4 spell arts in my battle. Those earlier figures could not match that even combined. It seems the Great Desire Dao has a far deeper foundation than the Emptiness Dao. Li Ziming's gaze grew troubled as Ningguan shook her head with a sigh. Indeed, Bai Yinzi's situation was still manageable. When I went to Zhao Yuan's side, not only did several under the Golden Lotus throne arrive, but Pai Jia and Nuzi also acted. Even the Lord of the Pure Victory Dao from the Western Plateau came. She hesitated before speaking further, but finally sighed again. Hufu and Kuiki were both in Jiangbei. If not for the overwhelming number of Buddhist cultivators, a great battle would surely have taken place. They continued speaking for some time until Ningguan finally said, "Fei Qingye has already been taken away. The fighting in Jiangbei has not yet ceased, though most of us have withdrawn. I came back to check on your injuries. There may still be an opportunity, so I will be heading toward the riverbank to observe the situation. Will you come along?" Li Ziming had no thoughts of accompanying her and declined on the grounds of his injuries. Ningguan still had matters to attend to in the north and departed riding the wind. With bright light and the mountain charging profound veil, the injuries left by Nuxeo were not serious and would heal within a month. Yet he could not wait. Feigning composure, he neither examined the Dharma artifacts nor even the consecration silver he had taken into his robes. He returned straight to his Zheguang profound purple spirit formation. The palace complex had long been constructed within the inner formation. It was simple in layout with layered depths. The highest main pavilion was naturally reserved for Li Ziming. Now that most personnel had withdrawn, few remained. He summoned Li Qiuan and instructed her, "Seal the grand formation and guard outside. If anyone comes, say I am in seclusion recovering and cannot receive guests. If there is something truly urgent, crush the jade pendant." Li Qiuan knew clearly what her Taoist master had gone out to do. She had been worried for a long time and quickly withdrew in understanding. As the grand formation sealed shut, Li Ziming entered the pavilion and closed its doors tightly. All lights were extinguished, leaving only the purple-gold patterns atop the inner formation swirling above. Li Ziming took out the white spirit stone from his sleeve. The spirit stone did not have a special radiance in the dim light. It appeared dull, like an ordinary object with nothing remarkable about it. Li Ziming closed his eyes and murmured softly. Li Ziming of the Li family respectfully invites the mirror to survey the hidden and probe the subtle, to perceive the profound, illuminate all directions, and investigate spirits and gods. A low hum rang out as he spoke. Layers of bright white patterns spread through the air. Traces of the pitch-black great void appeared within them, as if a small tear had been opened, allowing a glimmer of clear light to shine through. The light fell upon the spirit stone, refracting into multicolored brilliance. It shifted from pure white to crystal clarity. In an instant, the translucent spirit stone vanished, leaving only darkness behind. A hush fell over the pavilion. Li Ziming let out a quiet breath, feeling a faint sense of loss. Then, a sharp hum suddenly rang out. Li Ziming's expression shifted dramatically as a coolness spread through his Shenyang mansion. A white glow rose from beneath the layered brilliance of the bright Yang divine ability, forcing the divine ability aside and revealing a solid white orb. The profound pearl talisman seed. The white orb blossomed outward, expanding endlessly and filling the entire Shenyang. It then leapt outward, enveloping the Shenyang mansion. Here stands a descendant of the Li family who harmonizes spirit and nature, ascends through divine ability, fulfills virtue throughout his life, rises to the mandate of heaven, inscribe upon the profound talisman, ascend to the true name, journeys through the 5 nether realms, walks the great void, opens the profound clarity, and advances further upon the Tao. Dong! Li Ziming felt himself become infinitely small. A bronze ancient mirror spanning the great void appeared before him. Within its surface was reflected an entire world of rising clouds like a celestial realm. A chill spread across the back of his head, as if he had fallen into an icy cavern. His spiritual sense blurred, as though sinking deep into the boundless great void. His mind and form rose endlessly until he no longer knew where he was. And the dual lights of yin and yang surged forth. A vast world appeared before him. Snow covered the land and clouds rose high. White jade immortal palaces stood in rows. A massive golden lake shimmered with flowing waters, like liquid gold drifting within the clouds. Layers of spirit light supported 12 long bridges arching proudly across the lake. The world spun and everything faded as his feet finally touched solid ground. Li Ziming looked down to see a white jade floor beneath him. He was standing within a bright pavilion. He was no longer at Moongaze Lake. What kind of technique is this? Li Ziming was startled and did not dare think further. He quickly surveyed his surroundings. The pavilion stretched around 33 meters in both directions and was considered spacious. Built of gray stone and white jade, its surfaces were smooth and unadorned. A stone pillar lamp stood beside him, casting a gentle glow. Everything here was orderly. Tables, chairs, tea stands, and cushions were neatly arranged. The space was simply adorned and seemed long abandoned. The pavilion was silent as soft light filled the air. Standing by the open window, Li Ziming saw an endless sea of clouds beyond, along with the sun and moon hanging together in the sky, one on each side. Distant pavilions rose and fell among the clouds, appearing and vanishing within them. As the cloud sea shifted, an overwhelming spiritual chi surged toward him. Li Ziming stopped breathing for a moment. He watched his surroundings cautiously without moving, his heart pounding as he thought, this is. He had clearly heard mention of rising to the mandate of heaven and opening profound clarity. Aside from the immortal artifact passed down through his family, could a true monarch be playing such a trick? Recalling what he had seen, realization stirred within him to move someone with divine ability without warning. Could this be the world within the immortal mirror? The Li family's talisman seeds ultimately returned to the mirror. In ancient times, grotto heavens were attached to spirit artifacts and dharma relics. Li Ziming was not certain whether the immortal mirror contained such a realm. Yet years ago, when the talisman seed stirred the outer sea, he had glimpsed such a realm. Since then he had suspected the truth, and now it was nearly confirmed. He hesitated, but ultimately approached the central jade table. Its surface shone with a gentle brilliance. On either side were patterns of osmanthus and moonlight. A porcelain white bottle and a purple-black wooden slip of unusual texture rested in the center. These items appeared casually placed, but suspicion rose within him. He circled the pavilion and found a command token resting upon a cushion. The command token was the length of a forearm, pure white, and adorned with silver supreme yin patterns. At its center was a circular surface bearing a simple ancient seal character. Upon seeing it, Li Ziming understood. Chapter 1402, Realm of Sun and Moon Radiance, I. Li Ziming studied the command token. His pupils widened as he examined it for quite some time. His heart felt as if it were suspended over a sheer abyss, leaving him unable to find words. There seems to be no great void here. I cannot ride the wind to rise either. There must be restrictions in place. Even my spiritual sense is suppressed to the area around my body. I am likely within a terrifying formation. He closed his eyes and offered a prayer to the immortal mirror. After completing the incantation and receiving no response, his suspicions grew stronger. He did not dare to move or leave. After hesitating for some time, he stepped back, bowed, and only then reached out to take it. The command token felt cool in his hand and was smooth to the touch. Divine ability did not stain it, and spiritual sense could not penetrate it. Just like all the immortal mirror fragments and the immortal mirror itself over the past 100 years, it seemed no different from an ordinary object. No unusual phenomenon had appeared despite picking it up. He carefully turned and carried it to the jade desk in the pavilion. After a brief moment of thought, he finally picked up the jade bottle. The jade bottle differed from those commonly seen in Jiangnan. Its neck was slightly longer, with no stopper or lid. The bottle itself was pure white, faintly marked with several vertical lines. Spiritual sense could not pass through it. He could only stand the bottle upright and look into it from above. Inside, layers of mist drifted, some sinking and some floating with a vivid greeny hue. After sensing it carefully, Li Ziming found it strangely familiar. He closed his eyes slightly, and his heart trembled. Talisman Chi. Though he had never seen it in this form before, it felt extremely familiar. Li Ziming hesitated for a moment as the incantations of the sacrificial ritual method appeared in his mind. A shock ran through him like thunder, a purple mansion realm green talisman. Li Ziming had considered such a thing long ago, yet purple mansion realm demonic creatures were hard to find. The Li family had only encountered that cunning and treacherous white elephant. They had never found any easy to obtain purple mansion realm demonic creatures. With this, could Zhao Wei's talisman Chi finally be resolved? Although Li Ziming had already received a talisman before reaching the purple mansion realm, he had come to understand how slow the cultivation of purple mansion realm divine abilities could be. He still remembered the powerful effect of a single strand of talisman Chi elevating one's level during the foundation establishment realm. It was no longer useful to him, but now that Li Zhaowei was in seclusion attempting a breakthrough to the purple mansion realm, this green talisman could turn their hopes into reality. With it placed before him, he drew an excited breath and nearly trembled. After carefully inspecting it, he hurriedly set it back on the table, afraid of tainting the spirit item. Reluctantly, his gaze left the porcelain white bottle. He then looked at a purple-black scroll resembling sandalwood and gently opened it. It contained nothing but smooth blankness. Li Ziming quickly set it down. After much thought, he picked up the command token, growing bolder. He searched through the long cabinets, small chests, and cases in the pavilion, leaving no place unchecked. He found nothing else except for a small box at the bottom of a cabinet. Inside were 5 bottles of unused pale blue-white qi. He did not know what it was, but after probing it with spiritual sense, it seemed to be a form of spiritual qi rather than a spirit material. He carefully returned it and made one more round before finally returning to the white jade lampstand. He studied its moonlike cool radiance. After a moment of hesitation, he did not dare lift the cover to see what oil burned within. Pretending indifference, he walked past it to the pavilion door. Through the gap in the door, he could see a long corridor outside the courtyard. 6 white jade lamp pillars cast a cool glow. The corridor split into 2 at the far end, both sides hidden within layers of drifting clouds. Great God. Li Ziming pushed the door open and stepped out. The clouds beside the door and windows were swept aside, revealing gray steps. The sound of the door echoed through the silent, immortal palace, reverberated in the mist, and faded into the layered clouds. So quiet. Taboo. He stepped out and looked down at the gray steps beneath his feet. He noticed faint formation patterns upon them, dim and nearly imperceptible. It was unclear whether they were active, though a pale white glow flowed through them. His footsteps echoed as he walked down the corridor. At its end, another pavilion emerged from the mist. It resembled the previous one, though taller with what appeared to be 3 levels. Upturned eaves rose sharply, and a plaque hung above, bearing the inscription, Upper Firmament. Li Ziming pushed the door open and entered. The first floor was empty, save for a stone platform in the center. A white jade lamp stood at each corner. The stone platform reached no higher than the waist. It was carved with a design of the falling moon of the supreme yin and patterns of drifting clouds. At its center was a long rectangular recess, emitting a faint, cool glow within the dim pavilion. A staircase to the second level stood nearby. Li Ziming ascended while deep in thought. His purple mansion realm vision was keen. He could see traces of formation restrictions between the first and second levels, though for some reason they were inactive, standing idle. The second level was almost identical to the first, though slightly smaller. An open window allowed in a bit more light. After a brief glance, Li Ziming continued upward. The highest level was even smaller. The light from 4 lamps intertwined to highlight a jade meditation cushion with a blue base in the center. Before it rested a square bronze incense burner layered with a thin bed of ash. Here, the command token in Li Ziming's hand finally emitted a faint glow, as if responding. Li Ziming hurried forward. Countless tiny characters covered the blue-based jade cushion. From afar they resembled patterns. Though written in ancient script, his spiritual sense grasped their meaning instantly upon contact. Talisman opening, immortal ascension art. A torrent of technique content followed. The first part he saw was the spell he had read long ago, the reception method. The spell for obtaining talisman seeds passed in a flash. Next came the sacrificial ritual method for obtaining talisman qi. As this spell swept past, a third part emerged. It was the immortal ascension method. This technique was unprecedented. Li Ziming had never seen anything like it. It described how to use this jade cushion to elevate one's talisman seed, open the profound clarity, ascend to the heavens, and present one's merits according to ritual in pursuit of the Tao. The talisman seed must be bestowed by the immortal mirror. With a single glance, Li Ziming saw that the practitioner must not only possess a talisman seed, but also first inscribe upon the profound talisman and ascend to the true name before opening the profound clarity and reaching heaven with the soul. This was something Li Ziming knew well. Before entering, he had already inscribed upon the profound talisman and ascended to the true name. This meant he could now perform the final immortal ascension method of the talisman opening immortal ascension art. The immortal art that led to our rise must have originated from here. He immediately knelt and offered a prolonged bow before the cushion, as if to a teacher before rising. The flood of information forced him to steady himself. He then looked at the incense burner and saw several small engraved words upon its square bronze surface. Hidden Pavilion of Profound 7 within the Sacred Purity Palace. Li Ziming pondered, this should be the Upper Firmament Pavilion. I do not know its relationship to the Hidden Pavilion of Profound 7 within the Sacred Purity Palace. Perhaps this incense burner came from there. It may be connected to the heavens. Chapter 1403, Realm of Sun and Moon Radiance, II. After examining the cushion for a while, Li Ziming seemed to reach a realization. He returned to the first level of the upper firmament pavilion, stepped out, and soon came back holding the purple-black wooden slip. He unfolded it. It was indeed a perfectly shaped rectangle. After a moment of comparison, he nodded and placed it into the recess on the stone platform. It fit seamlessly. The stone platform and wooden slip, once mundane to spiritual sense, finally changed. This time, when his spiritual sense touched them, streams of information flowed into him. Li Ziming closed his eyes as countless texts appeared in his mind. Snow Washing Path, Floating Cloud Heart Sutra, Profound Zheng Sword Art, Azure River Source Seeking Technique, Pheasant Flame's Long March Technique. Li Ziming suddenly understood in his mind, these are all foundation establishment realm techniques. Countless techniques appeared in his mind one after another in astonishing numbers. After looking through them, Li Ziming noticed something and thought, some names are bright while others are dim. There must be a distinction. He chose at random and first focused on the dim Snow Washing Path, which produced no response. He then shifted to the shining Profound Zheng Sword Art. The wooden slip embedded in the stone platform immediately displayed lines of bright golden text. Numerous sword principles emerged and flowed across it like water. Li Ziming did not linger. Slightly excited, he removed the wooden slip and took 2 steps to the stone platform on the second level. He inserted the purple-black slip again and let his spiritual sense sink into it. Buzz! An equally vast number of techniques appeared, though far fewer were bright. Li Ziming almost instantly spotted the radiant essence scripture he cultivated. So it truly came from here. Whether immortal arts or cultivation techniques, all originate from this upper firmament pavilion. Li Zhongqian's heavenly scripture of the dimming Li Day and Li Qian's golden book of singular attunement also appeared among the many names. Though most names were dim, aside from the 3 Li family techniques, there were many Purple Mansion realm techniques as well. The Heavenly Cultivation Purple Qi Immortal Essence of the Purple Essence, Jade True Void of Jade True, the Huai River Spirit Transformation Book of True Essence. Li Ziming glanced through them and even found several techniques beyond the Purple Mansion realm techniques. They are 5th grade techniques. It seems only techniques of the 5th grade and above are considered Purple Mansion realm, which matches Jiangnan, thought Li Ziming. Outer Sea Purple Mansion realm cultivators used only 4th grade techniques. Only certain supreme Yang Dao lineages possessed 5th grade ones. It was unknown whether 7th grade techniques existed, though the highest in Jiangnan was said to be 6th grade. He let out a long breath as he continued to examine them. These standalone techniques would not easily conflict with other Dao lineages. One even belonged to the rare Pure Essences Dao. Li Ziming pondered inwardly, 5th grade techniques are too difficult. I lack the depth and talent to master them all. When the chance arises, I will focus on 1 or 2 and supplement the rest with 4th grade techniques. It is best to have something usable first. Even Outer Sea Purple Mansion realm cultivators do not possess only 4th grade techniques. He did not linger on these techniques. After a brief pause, he exited the first level of the upper firmament pavilion and walked into the corridor. Passing it, he indeed saw a path leading downward. He descended the steps. The mist was thinner now, and he realized he stood upon a mountain peak. Moonlight and sunlight shone together. When he saw the terrifying sight of the sun and moon hanging in the sky, Li Ziming quickly lowered his head. Beneath the pavilion lay an immortal courtyard. 4 side rooms surrounded an open central space. Faint formation patterns spread everywhere, as though a formation operated silently. It was only when he reached the courtyard gate that Li Ziming sensed a trace of danger. He suddenly halted and sensed carefully. The dangerous aura felt strangely familiar. A moment later, he understood. A forbidden formation above the Purple Mansion realm. Li Ziming stepped back at once and looked upward. He glanced at the sight of sun and moon hanging together in the sky and the faint patterns upon the immortal pavilion. Understanding dawned upon him as he muttered, "This entire world is under the aegis of a forbidden formation. The reason I felt no danger earlier is because the formation of this pavilion has been operating, allowing movement within it." Though the danger beyond the gate was heavy yet not lethal, Li Ziming knew what kind of place this was and withdrew quickly. This place is vast and the spiritual energy is incredibly dense. The spiritual qi of Pingya Island is already decent, yet it is nothing compared to here. Cultivating here would bring twice the result with half the effort. The heaven mentioned in the jade cushion was not where the upper firmament pavilion stood. One had to be in this realm of sun and moon radiance to reach heaven. The upper firmament pavilion was empty. It was likely a grotto heaven. With a forbidden formation sealing it from outside, could it not be used by his own family? A world exists within the mirror. It would allow family members to come and go. It would greatly ease the storage of secrets. Hope arose in Li Ziming's heart, yet hope was only hope. As the joy faded, the unease hidden deep within grew ever stronger. There was no other reason. Although the spiritual energy here was abundant, it could not connect to the great void in the slightest. It felt as though he were trapped within a cage. Having been drawn into this place, Li Ziming had no way to leave, yet the world outside was far from stable. Was he to remain here forever? After searching several times and closing his eyes to attempt contact with the immortal mirror without success, he returned to the upper firmament pavilion, bowed before the jade cushion, and looked at it once more. Open the profound clarity, ascend to the heavens, and present one's merits according to ritual in pursuit of the Tao. Currently, the only path left is to perform the immortal ascension method. He steadied his mind, lifted his sleeve, and took out 3 sticks of incense. He placed them into the bronze burner before him, lit them with a wave of his hand, and sat cross-legged upon the jade cushion. As he chanted and formed seals, the jade cushion beneath him gradually lit with golden radiance. The light flowed across the inscriptions and transformed into streams of golden runes that drifted along his body, emitting a soft and elegant glow. Compared to the dizzying chill when he first entered this realm of sun and moon radiance, Li Ziming felt little this time. As the incense burned out, more and more golden runes gathered around him and poured into his Shenyang mansion. When the final chant ended, his vision brightened, and his soul rose into the boundless heights before gently descending. Darkness faded into light as clouds swirled around him. This time Li Ziming truly stood upon thick clouds. There was no pavilion, no sun or moon, let alone mountains. Endless whiteness stretched beneath his feet. He looked down and saw his legs submerged within the clouds, faint and half-transparent. All divine abilities, mana, and even the solidity of flesh had vanished. Only his soul remained standing within the mist. My soul has been taken while bypassing the Shenyang mansion. If a mere chi cultivation realm cultivator appeared now, a single technique could kill me. In this world, aside from the underworld's judiciary, who else could seize souls? He forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart and looked into the distance. A pavilion appeared faintly within the clouds. Farther still, he saw a familiar soaring golden radiance. So those immortal landscapes are truly this heaven. Chapter 1404. Registering Name I. Grotto Heaven. The moon laurel swayed gently, pale silver light drifting beneath its branches. A biting wind swept through as a white jade platform floated between heaven and earth. Lu Jiangxian lightly raised his hand, drawing a reflected image of an ancient bronze mirror forth from the great void. The mirror was no larger than a palm, encircled by a dark rim. Patterns along its tail gradually converged on a jade stone shining bright as a star. This piece from the Mifan Dao lineage is not a fragment of the mirror's surface. The jade stone within the Mifan Dao lineage was part of the mirror's body itself, called the registering name stone. Embedded in the mirror, it had originally been one whole, and it was the origin of the saying, inscribe upon the profound talisman and ascend to the true name. The edict Li Ziming had heard had not arisen from nothing. It was because this treasure had returned that the immortal mirror's wondrous power had surged, bringing about a new transformation. Though the name registering name stone sounded pleasant, its effect was exceedingly domineering. If someone relaxed their mind and was illuminated by its profound light, a trace of their true spirit would be inscribed upon the registering name stone and could never be erased. If that person possessed a talisman seed, they could ascend into the world within the mirror through it. If the person had not received a talisman seed, and their true spirit entered the registering name stone, they would not only be constrained, as if bound by a talisman seed, their thoughts and life and death would no longer be their own. They would be entirely controlled by the master of the immortal artifact, yet also be unable to enjoy the various benefits granted by a talisman seed. Although such people could fly into the world within the mirror, they had no choice in the matter. A single summons from above would rip their souls from their bodies and send it crashing headlong into the registering name stone. Of course, if a person refused to open their mind, then as long as their body perished and their Shenyang mansion was exposed before the immortal artifact, and they sought rebirth through various methods of other mansions or relinquished stations, that brief instant when the true spirit was laid bare would likewise be illuminated by the profound light of the registering name stone. They could not escape the same outcome. If that person's soul and body entered the mirror, it would be walking straight into a net. They would already be fixed upon the registering name stone and could never wash it away. How overbearing! Who knows whether it is an immortal artifact or a demonic artifact? Lu Jiangxian examined each of these wonders in turn. When he compared the effects of talisman seed and the talisman pill, he saw that they truly came from the same source and allowed not the slightest slackening. If this immortal artifact were to enter the world, and talisman seeds were bestowed upon trusted aides, while the rest were recorded one by one with the registering name stone, could they not raise batch after batch of manpower? When his thoughts reached this point, doubts arose. If his previous life possessed such power, why would they complain that the cultivators beneath the Moonlight Origin Mansion were not united? There would be no need to speak of unity at all. Record their names within, draw their souls into the mirror, and all petty thoughts would become useless. Not only that, his doubts about the immortal mirror had grown ever more numerous. The Miffin Dao lineage inheritance came from the Wanglin upper sect of Jiangbei. When the Moonlight Origin Mansion was still manifested in this world, the Wanglin upper sect had already severed its Dao lineage. Would this thing not have long since fallen into the hands of the Wanglin upper sect? Then how could the immortal mirror in that so-called previous life's hands have been complete? The master of the Moonlight Origin Mansion had indeed possessed this immortal mirror. It was known as peerless in both formations and talismans, with scarcely any opponents under heaven. Even if he was not an immortal lord, he would at least have been a Dao embryo. The immortal mirror can sense its fragments. With his ability, entering and leaving the Miffin Grotto heaven would have been child's play. He could have taken it directly. This shows that at present, it is still within the scheme he laid. Lu Jiangxian could remain silent as he examined it carefully. This registering name stone has a range limit and likewise relies upon talisman seeds. The range covered by divine sense goes without saying. For those registered in this world outside that range, if their souls attempt to communicate upward or downward with the registering name stone, talisman seed must respond to receive them to avoid detection by others. After all, only talisman seeds possess this kind of responsive ability. That is not difficult. There is a surplus of talisman seeds now, and it is not as though one person occupies one position. When a response is needed, they only need to receive it. Place a few within and it will be more than enough. Lu Jiangxian now had 12 talisman seeds. 8 were with the Li family, and the remaining 4 were kept with him. Though they were gradually becoming tight in number, they were still sufficient. At the very least, he could place 1 inside and still have 3 left to use. He extended his hand. The 4 white pellets linked end to end, and were first cast into the registering name stone for use. Only then did he turn his gaze toward the great void. The Miffin Dao lineage was actually preserved. When the Supreme Yang Dao lineage had been ambushed by a Buddhist cultivator, the Jiangbei platform planned by Tinglin had also largely collapsed. Earlier, the Supreme Yang Dao lineage had swarmed in to divide the immortal resources within the Grotto heaven, but that scene was gone. To speak plainly, the events of the past were better seen as a transaction with Luoxia. The descent of the Grotto heaven was compensation from Luoxia to Supreme Yang. Now they were simply running errands for Luoxia in vain, suffering losses without gaining much benefit. Now that the true monarch within the great void had departed, Jiangbei was no longer as dangerous as before. Lu Jiangxian watched and sensed that something was amiss. Moreover, although the Golden Feather sect falls under Luoxia, many among them harbor different intentions. They have exchanged glances and cultivated ties with the Supreme Yang Dao lineage in the past, and the Supreme Yang Dao lineage was eager to stabilize the Golden Feather sect. Now they have openly abandoned the Golden Tang Gate and lost their tacit understanding with the Azure Pond sect. It seems Jiangbei is still full of undercurrents. He waved his hand to disperse the phantom in his grasp and flicked the air. The registering name stone shone brilliantly, and several white talismans drifted out, each seeming to possess its own spirit as they hung themselves upon the branches. Jinlian Five-Eyed Buzi. When this white talisman of Jinlian was turned over, the reverse bore the name Dangjiang. Although Maha Jinlian had only come once and had his soul divided, that trace of true spirit could not escape. His connection to the world within the mirror was even deeper than that of the others. Now Jinlian had repaired his injuries, yet the loss within his soul was not easily healed. Who knew what spirit herbs he had secretly used? At least on the surface, he no longer appeared as though part of his soul was missing. At present, no restrictions are needed. With a single thought, whether it is Five-Eyed or Jinlian, they have truly fallen into my hands. Following the flow of events, Lu Jiangxian opened a pavilion within the Grotto heaven for the Li family to use. His heart gradually settled as he thought to himself, I'll take advantage of this moment to establish the connection, and also pass down the method of obtaining cultivation techniques along with that cave dwelling. Chapter 1405, Registering Name II. Hidden Pavilion of Profound 7 within the Sacred Purity Palace. Cloud and mist drifted through a bright courtyard where ancient trees stood tall. A youth with pale green eyes lay reclined upon a branch. A command token hung at his waist. He held a scroll in one hand and a silver flask in the other, looking carefree and at ease. Two strongmen waited like statues beneath the tree, stacks of books in their hands, as he sipped leisurely at his flask. After a while, they saw the light upon the jade table flicker faintly and heard a low humming sound. The youth reacted as though he had been shocked. He leapt down from the tree, shifted twice in midair, and landed by the table in an instant. He tossed aside the silver flask, which clattered loudly, and cried out in wild delight, "Which fellow Taoist has come to visit?" After immortal official Liu descended to the lower realm, and Kai Buzi had fallen silent once more, Dang Jiang had suffered greatly. He immediately strode forward, kicked the door open, and hurried out without even closing the courtyard gate. In a few steps he was already among the clouds, narrowing his eyes to examine what lay ahead. A Taoist clad in white and gold robes was standing in the clouds. His features were upright but not particularly handsome. If not for the faint glimmer of transformation at the center of his eyebrows, he would not have appeared remarkable at all. The youth suddenly stepped forward and said with a smile, "I am Dang Jiang. Greetings, fellow Taoist. From which immortal mansion do you hail?" Li Ziming did not dare be careless when he saw such a person appear so suddenly. He quickly stepped forward to greet him and replied, "I am Zheajing. As for which immortal mancio and he belonged to, Li Ziming naturally could not answer. Yet just as he spoke, something struck him and his expression changed as he thought, Dangjiang. Dangjiang, the immortal official of the Dangjiang Creek Water Mansion under the immortal lord. The Li family had heard this name back when Kai Buzi had left the Li family. Later, Li Qingheng met Kai Buzi again. It was said that this Dangjiang had already died, though whether it was the same person was unclear. It cannot be that this Dangjiang is Kai Buzi. When Dangjiang had been at the Li family years ago, Li Ziming had not been present and had only heard of it later. Now that they met face to face, Li Ziming did not dare acknowledge him, and Dangjiang did not recognize Li Ziming either. Instead, he wept with joy and exclaimed, "At last, a human voice." Dangjiang looked Li Ziming up and down and asked eagerly, "Fellow Taoist, are you a soul?" Li Ziming hurriedly cupped his hands and replied, "Immortal official, I received guidance in the lower realm and ascended into heaven. At this moment I am utterly bewildered and cannot clearly discern where I am." Someone from the lower realm. Dangjiang's expression changed at once. Though he was merely a collating official, this entire region fell under Shehu's administration. Something major must have happened. His eyes burned as he replied, "This is truly rare. Why not come with me to see my lord?" After speaking, he slapped his forehead as realization dawned. My apologies. We must first find you a body." He led Li Ziming into the courtyard. Two strongmen stepped forward to receive them. Dangjiang casually grabbed one and held him in his hand, grinning. "This strongman has only a body and no soul within. His Dharma body is not weak either. He is the most suitable." Li Ziming examined it carefully, yet doubts stirred in his heart. A body was no trivial matter. If something went wrong, the loss could be fatal. He secretly called upon the immortal mirror, intending to probe the matter. Yet the moment he formed the incantation, streams of white light burst from his soul. The profound pearl talisman seed appeared out of thin air. It felt as though cold water had been poured over him from head to toe as the talisman seed transformed into a body. The body was identical to his own. Even the white and gold Taoist robe manifested from nothing and settled upon him. He stood firm in the courtyard and felt all manner of wondrous powers reattached to his Dharma body. At last, he felt solid ground beneath his feet, and his purple mansion realm divine ability returned as well. Phew! He let out a breath, confidence returning to his heart. Dangjiang's eyes shifted as he sensed something extraordinary. He exclaimed in admiration, "Fellow Taoist, you actually possess purple mansion realm cultivation. No wonder you carry yourself so well. From which region of the lower realm do you come, and from which family?" Li Ziming gave a slight bow. He noticed something extra in his sleeve. Focusing, he saw that the command token from the pavilion was now tucked within it. He replied, "This minor cultivator's surname is Li. I cultivate upon a small lake." At these words, the expression on Dangjiang's face changed. His eyes widened, and his expression contained both doubt and delight as he cried out, "Do you have any command token as proof?" Li Ziming lifted his sleeve and took out the command token. The moment Dangjiang saw the character Li upon it, his eyes reddened. His lips trembled as he cried out, "So it truly is Li. Fellow Taoist, you have caused me such suffering." He had muttered and fretted about immortal official Li for who knew how long. Now that someone surnamed Li had finally appeared, he poured out his grievances and lamented. Lord Li descended to undergo reincarnation and tribulation. All the affairs of this mansion had been left to me. How could I possibly manage them all? Scroll after scroll, volume after volume, they have piled into mountains. Fortunately, Lord Liu has shown me much care and given me a task or two for diversion. Otherwise, I would have worked myself to death. Li Ziming's mind buzzed. Reincarnation. What reincarnation could there be? Could it possibly be me? The Li family had long speculated about the origin of the immortal mirror. Now that a grotto heaven's secret realm existed within it, its origin seemed elevated even further. The supreme yin moonlight that had poured forth night after night in years past pointed directly to that origin mansion. The person Dangjang spoke of was undoubtedly the former master of the immortal mirror. At the mention of reincarnation and tribulation, Li Ziming almost immediately had a suspect in mind. It must be Li Jiangquan, who was besieged and killed by various families in those years. That pavilion and small courtyard were likely left behind by him, the inheritance of the Moonlight Origin Mansion Heo. Be tamed must also be inseparable from the heavens. He looked at Dangjang, who sighed endlessly and seemed burdened with deep grievances. Li Ziming immediately cupped his hands and replied, I fear the immortal official has mistaken me. My family has worshipped an immortal artifact for generations, and only thus did I gain the chance to continue upon the Tao. I do not know any immortal official. I am but a minor cultivator. The joy that had just flared within Dangjang vanished in an instant. He stood stunned for a brief moment before he muttered, So it is not you. In principle, the man before him had no reason to deceive him. Dangjang's heart sank as he pondered inwardly, if not you, then it must at least be someone from your family, some ancestor or elder from the heavens. They go play happily in the lower realm and leave me here to toil like an ox and horse. Only then did he notice the bright yang radiance upon Li Ziming's body and finally realize something. He thought, cultivating bright yang. It seems similar to Kai Buzi. Kai Buzi is trapped under pristine water, but this one is in an even more awkward state than Kai Buzi. First there was Kai Buzi, now there is this bright yang Zheajing. Whose fruition attainment are they shaking this time? The great lords in heaven are playing a grand game. He felt a shiver of cold excitement at his own deduction and forgot to speak further. At that moment, light flowed through the clouds, and a streak of color arrived, transforming into an immortal general within the courtyard. The immortal general wore silver-white armor and carried a sword at his waist. Dangjang did not dare hesitate and immediately bowed. The immortal general, however, paused when he saw Li Ziming and smiled. Greetings, fellow Taoist. Li Ziming raised his eyes and was taken aback by those sharp brows and strikingly familiar eyes. He was momentarily at a loss and nearly called out. So very alike. Fortunately, he now had excellent control over his emotions. Outwardly, he showed little reaction and simply returned the bow. The immortal general said with a smile, I am the Supreme Yin Bright Immortal General, Zhenggao. Congratulations, fellow Taoist. By order of the Supreme Yin Immortal Mansion, the command token of the immortal official has stirred and returned to its rightful place. The realm of sun and moon radiance has reopened, and so I have come to see you. Li Ziming hurriedly bowed as Dangjang remained kneeling. Zhenggao turned and led Li Ziming outward, speaking softly. The immortal palace has long been sealed in dust. Matters of the manifest world are never governed by heaven and are decided instead by the immortal artifact. You should not have been brought up here, but the profound decree of the Upper Firmament Pavilion bears the legacy of immortal official Li. Since you have received it, this journey was necessary. That profound decree of the Upper Firmament Pavilion has already been registered in heaven. From now on, once you return, you may freely enter and exit the Upper Firmament Pavilion. Joy rose within Li Ziming. The benefits of a grotto heaven were immense. No family would refuse more of them, though few dared to hope. He offered thanks, but before he could say more, Zhenggao continued, The immortal palace has not yet manifested. It will be sealed again after 7 days. Since you are fated to inherit this immortal decree, within it lie the immortal merits you have accumulated over the years, aligned with the Pavilion of Profound 7. If you require cultivation techniques, you may seek them from the Upper Firmament Pavilion. This immortal decree contains 357 immortal merits. Several Purple Mansion-level arts have already been exchanged and may be viewed. As for sacrificing demons, eliminating devils, and suppressing heterodox Taos, all of these grant immortal merits. It is a fine opportunity for those in the lower realm. Li Ziming quietly let out a breath of relief as he listened to Zhenggao continue, Take care. While heaven remains closed, this effectively places you in the position of immortal official Lei. Do not let those at the level of true monarch see it, or it may cost you your life. Li Ziming had experienced too much in a single day. For a moment he did not know what to feel, as though he were in a dream. He only said softly, I accept the honored immortal decree. After speaking, Zhenggao grew solemn as he said again, Matters of heaven must not be disclosed. Cultivate well in the lower realm. If one day you ascend to fruition attainment and achieve the rank of true monarch, there will be another chance to ascend and meet again. Chapter 1406, Tianhuo I. Li Ziming did not believe in talk of achieving true monarch or forging a golden core. If anyone had hope of such accomplishments, it would be Li Xiaowei or Li Qiwen. As for himself, he would already be burning incense in gratitude. If he could reach the Purple Mansion threshold. He simply bowed and said, I dare not hope to reach the Golden Core realm. I only wish that this junior may amount to something and not disgrace the inheritance. When Zheng Gao heard this, he was slightly taken aback, a trace of emotion flickering in his eyes. He turned away and did not speak for a moment. After a brief silence, a palace maid came hurrying from afar, holding a jade box in her arms. He sighed and said, there are still many fine things within the upper firmament pavilion. He also entrusted a few items to the heavens. Take them back with you for use. Consider it as accepting this destined connection. After the items were presented, Li Ziming bowed again and again in gratitude. Yet he did not rise, instead continuing to bow as he asked, I have merely received the blessings left by those before me. May I ask, is this immortal official none other than Taoist Master Donghua? The Li family had obtained the immortal mirror long ago and had harbored this suspicion. Now that he finally voiced it, his heart trembled. Out of the corner of his eye, he observed that, when the matter was mentioned, Dangjiang, who was kneeling beside him, was already in tears and sobbing uncontrollably. A chill ran through him. It must be so. This immortal official Dangjiang labored day and night for Taoist Master Donghua. Taoist Master Donghua even inscribed his pavilion name upon the incense burner. Now that his name is spoken, Dangjiang cannot contain himself and weeps openly. Their bond in the heavens must be deep. That must be why this immortal general of evident high rank personally came to receive us. Dangjiang wept so pitifully that even Zheng Gao let out a sigh, thinking to himself, how could I say it is not him? I cannot point to anyone else who would have given it to you. Should I claim it was your ancestor Mushin instead? Thus Zheng Gao assumed a solemn expression and let out a deep sigh. Treasure it well. With a gentle wave of his sleeve, Li Ziming turned into a streak of light and vanished. Only then did he turn back with some vexation. A kneeling Dangjiang had cried himself into a tearful mess as he stretched out his hands and called out, It has been so long since I have seen you, my lord. I have missed you dearly. I have kept your teachings firmly in mind. These hands of mine have not ceased writing cultivation techniques day after day. He spoke thus aloud, yet inwardly he kept muttering, Taoist Master Donghua Li Jiangquan, Taoist Master Donghua Li Jiangquan, it truly is you. Still no news, and I must continue to toil like a beast of burden. What hardship for me. Zheng Gao heard his inner voice buzzing incessantly and felt somewhat helpless. Yet his expression remained imposing as he offered reassurance, saying, I know you have worked hard. You have always handled the affairs of immortal official Li. Now that someone from the lower realm has arrived, it is a good sign. It shows that the restrictions of the immortal mansion are gradually opening. The position of immortal official Li has long stood vacant. Zhejiang will not be able to ascend for many days, and he may not have the chance in the future. He holds certain posts in the lower realm for eliminating demons and regulating heterodox paths. That could be of great benefit to you. Dangjiang lifted his head, joy surging in his heart, though tears still streaked his face as he said, This humble one harbors no greed and offers no complaint. I am only grateful that you remember me at all times. I dare not forget it. I will certainly remain diligent and fulfill my duties. To be fair, he truly was diligent in his work. Though he could not compose Purple Mansion realm volumes like Lu Jiangxian, he had not neglected the Foundation Establishment realm or the Qi Cultivation realm volumes at all. His scope was far broader than Shehui, who specialized solely in Lesser Yin. Thus Zheng Gao comforted, this place is cold and harsh as well. If you need anything, you may speak to Shehui. No sooner had Lu Jiangxian finished speaking than he heard Dangjiang's inner voice burst forth in irrepressible joy. In the heavens, are there immortal cows? I crave milk so badly. That single thought left Zheng Gao speechless. He immediately dissolved into wind and vanished, feeling utterly helpless. I should have known this was his nature. He has even brought Jinlian's bad habits up to the heavens, and he is still thinking about boiling that milk to drink. Upper Firmament Pavilion. At the higher level, 4 lamp pillars shone with bright light as the Taoist master, in a white golden Taoist robe, slowly opened his eyes. Li Ziming felt heaven and earth spin. In the blink of an eye, he had appeared within the upper firmament pavilion. All the heavenly scenery vanished like a dream as his soul returned to his Shenyang mansion, leaving only the sun and moon radiance of the upper firmament pavilion before his eyes. The 3 sticks of incense on the burner had just finished burning. Several strands of ash drooped within the censer, and a jade box sat squarely before him. It feels like waking from a dream. It truly was Taoist Master Donghua Li Jiangquan. But even if he was a sword immortal, even if he alone could suppress any Purple Mansion realm cultivator in Jiangnan and befriend every young cultivator of the supreme Yang Dao lineage, he was still besieged and slain at Moongaze Lake. My family is still nowhere close to his level. We must be even more cautious. He rose and examined the jade box in his hands. It bore no patterns and as pure white as snow, as though it might melt away at any moment. When he gently opened it, a surge of cold air rushed out, and the pavilion abruptly turned frigid. He steadied his mind and looked inside, seeing a scroll and a bead no larger than a fingernail inside the jade box. On the scroll was an image of a white sparrow, wings spread as if about to soar, vivid and lifelike. Beside it were 6 large words, Majestic Gui Yin Seizing Divine Scroll. Li Ziming studied it closely. Dense lines of cultivation techniques and arts filled the page beneath the illustration. When he sent his spiritual sense into it, he found that the Majestic Gui Yin Seizing Divine Scroll was a lesser yin-aligned Purple Mansion Realm cultivation technique. It condensed the divine ability Sunken Fragrance and included spell arts, footwork techniques, and escape spells in full. Although the Majestic Gui Yin Seizing Divine Scroll had been written by Shehui had once been an Outersea demon king, and certain habits in her arts could not help but stand out. Once Lu Zhongxian received it, he revised it at once. Now it brimmed with an ancient charm, carrying the flavor of the Purple Mansion and Golden Core Dao when it had only just begun to take shape. Li Ziming nodded in delight. He put the painted scroll back into the box, then looked at the command token in his hand. As expected, it shone with a bright silvery gleam, and he silently made up his mind from now on, this place will be my family's treasured land. Talisman pills, family history, Dharma artifacts, and extraordinary cultivation techniques, I will store them all inside. He put the scroll back, then took out the fingernail-sized bead. With a slight probing, a scene gradually surfaced within his spiritual sense. He saw familiar vermilion-green seawater in rolling waves. The strait was narrow, with undulating mountain ranges. Li Ziming looked closely and found it oddly familiar. It seems to be somewhere in the Quinee Strait, near Quinee's Lulai Island. As his spiritual sense sank deeper, a deep blue radiance emerged, vaguely revealing a cave dwelling hidden within the earth veins. The residence gate was tightly shut, with not the slightest trace of life. A Purple Mansion Realm Grand Formation. It seems to be someone's cave dwelling. Li Ziming memorized it in silence, stored the item back into the jade box, and only then headed to the secondary floor. There are still Purple Mansion Realm cultivation techniques and spell arts here. He took the wooden slip again, set it into the stone dais, and began to examine it. He did not browse at random. Instead, he searched carefully and soon found the Purple Mansion Realm cultivation techniques of radiance under heaven among a sea of Purple Mansion techniques. The lowest of them was the scripture of thorough attainment and everlasting celebration, its name dim and ashen. According to the description of this command token, as long as the family's descendants perform sacrifices, new cultivation techniques will certainly be bestowed. If one wishes to request a specific method, one must first pray beside the incense burner in the upper firmament pavilion, send up a talisman register to the heavens, and wait for a response. Yet the heavens are sealed off. Who knows how long it will take for a reply or who will answer? Besides, this is far too costly. Purple Smoke Gate already possesses the Dao lineage of radiance under heaven. It would be more reasonable to obtain it directly, without all this trouble. It's better to eliminate demons and subdue fiends, accumulate immortal merits, and exchange them for something else. After his encounter in the heavens, Li Ziming understood that most of the illuminated arts here had been exchanged by that immortal official Li. Among the 5th grade arts, aside from the pit water technique water regulating and mount transforming, which he was not adept at, the remaining 3 were the profound vast art of pure essence, the true unity sundering barbaric radiance of true essence, and the 9 dams of Azure Ram Mountain of Azure Manifestation. Among these 3, Azure Manifestation favored earth virtue and had always held an ambiguous place among the various methods. Pure essence and true essence were the least restrictive and could be used by most cultivators. Li Ziming then examined the profound vast art of pure essence. It was a spell art that ordinarily elevated pure essence with the Dharma body and stored it within the great void to nurture transformations. It required the Dharma body to be without leakage or injury. Without leakage meant at least at the Purple Mansion realm. Without injury meant no wounds at all. Thus, when cultivating the profound vast art, if the Dharma body suffered damage, the pure essence stored in the great void would sense the deficiency and pour forth. The art made use of this principle to repair the Dharma body and respond to enemies in emergencies. Yet the more important purpose of this art went beyond that. Most of its content seemed to lay the foundation for storing pure essence. Once the art reached great accomplishment, if the body were suddenly destroyed and pure essence remained in surplus, the Shenyang mansion would fall into that pure essence and flee within the great void. The arts of pure essence are truly profound and wondrous. One might not act as recklessly as a merciful one or Maha at the Purple Mansion realm, yet the destruction of the Dharma body was not the end. Only when the Shenyang mansion shattered did true death occur. However, a Purple Mansion realm cultivator had no pure land to rely on for refuge. Even if one fled thousands of miles in an instant, others could easily seize one's Shenyang mansion once the Dharma body shattered. Unless one possessed some extraordinary spirit artifact or spell art, very few could escape using the Shenyang mansion alone. Still, the profound vast art looked difficult at a glance. Li Ziming shifted his attention to true unity sundering barbaric radiance. This true essence spell art was rare in that it nurtured the Tao within a weapon. Naturally, it was not easy to cultivate. For now, Li Ziming committed them all to memory. Recently, he had been cultivating the flame-stepping movement. Nearly 2 years had passed, and he had only just mastered the basics. He would not aim too high. He went down from the upper floor, opened the stone platform on the lowest level, and selected 4th grade Bright Yang spell arts. This time there were far more usable arts, and the difficulty was greatly reduced. Li Ziming was not lacking in offensive methods. After careful inspection, he selected 2 volumes. The 4th grade Bright Yang Escape spell arrayed Palace's Heavenly Yang Escape, and the 4th grade Binding Art Bright Light Heavenly Surge. As a cultivator of the immortal path, his immortal arts were already richer than the arts of Buddhist cultivators or demon cultivators. Now he was free to choose at will. Footwork techniques, spell arts, escape spells all had their strengths. More was better, yet one could not digest too much at once. Li Ziming therefore chose those 2 first. First, these 2 are not overly difficult. Second, they are among the few closely connected to the heaven-venerating gate, so cultivation will proceed faster. Though this has its drawbacks, when I cultivate the Everbright platform and other divine abilities later, they may not complement each other and will likely be replaced. But who knows whether I will even reach that stage? Speed alone is enough. Rapidly increasing strength is what matters. Satisfied, he put them away. Only upon returning to his quarters in the pavilion did he store the jade box in a chest. When Li Ziming had fought against Nuxiao and the others, he had suffered a minor injury to his shoulder. It was no longer visible, yet it would still require several months to heal. But he had no mind to wait. Taking advantage of the abundant spiritual energy here, he drew out a true profound heart-cleansing pill from his sleeve. He lifted the flesh of his shoulder with 2 fingers and inserted the pill beneath it, letting it dissolve and heal him on its own. He had just finished tending to the wound and had no time to cultivate further when a crisp sound rang out. "Pardon." Li Ziming quickly lowered his head and saw the jade talisman at his waist trembling slightly, fine cracks appearing upon its surface. "There is news from the lake." He hastily closed the jade box, took a jade bottle of pale azure qi from the cabinet, then turned to the window. Without sparing a glance at the wondrous scenery outside, he silently communicated with the command token. "Huala." His figure instantly dissolved into heavenly light and drifted away. The silver-white command token remained suspended in place before quietly settling down by the edge of the table. Chapter 1407, Tianhuo II. Inner formation of Lake Island. After waiting briefly, everything before Li Ziming turned into a curtain of purple-yellow light. He materialized within a dimly lit great hall, where long drapes on either side swayed gently in the breeze, casting faint shadows. His spiritual sense swept outward. Finding Li Qiuan waiting outside the inner formation hall, she appeared neither hurried nor anxious, and he let out a quiet breath of relief. "It seems nothing serious has happened. Most likely a Purple Mansion realm cultivator has come calling." The timing was awkward. The North was still in the midst of fierce conflict. Had Li Ziming not possessed valuable treasures, he too would have been roaming about in search of opportunities rather than returning early to lie low. Everything before him was no different from when he had left, yet his state of mind had changed completely. Feeling at ease and in good spirits, he allowed the girl to enter. Li Qiuan stepped before the hall, performed a proper salute, and said respectfully, Taoist Master Tianhuo of the Golden Feather Immortal Sect has come to pay a visit. He is currently upon the lake, accompanied by a cultivator from Jiangbei. I informed him that you were recuperating from your injuries. He said, there is no rush. Tianhuo. Upon hearing it was someone from the Golden Feather Sect, Li Ziming felt a flicker of a complicated emotion. Still, if a figure of that rank had come in person, there was no reason to keep him waiting. The Golden Feather Sect had always kept an eye on Master Beiyin. They surely knew what injuries he had sustained and how severe they were. I will go receive him. After a moment's thought, Li Ziming walked outward. As if suddenly recalling something, he gave instructions. Our family possesses the glazed pagoda of unrestrained boundary. There is enough space within it to house people. Move it here from Mount Qingdu. Have this hall refurbished and install the pagoda within it. Li Qiuan had no time to ask further and simply nodded in agreement. She left the hall, passed through the formation, and arrived upon the lake. As expected, she saw a Taoist master clad in a golden Taoist robe. His robe was embroidered with golden flames, and the cuffs bore patterns of golden stone and swirling sand. The entirety of his attire was resplendent. He was just over 2 meters in height, with refined brows and handsome eyes, his bearing elegant and poised. A small, gleaming silver sword-shaped ornament swayed at his waist as he stood upon the water's surface, gazing into the distance. Beside him stood a respectful and restrained young man in blue robes whose forehead was covered in sweat. Judging by his appearance, he must be Su Yan, the one who had stirred great turmoil within the capital Immortal Dao and forced Guan Gongxiao to repeatedly seek aid. When he saw Li Ziming approach, the Taoist master in golden robes turned around. His eyes shone brightly as he smiled. "Greetings, Zheajing. I am Tianhuo of the Golden Feather sect." Li Ziming returned the salute and said softly, "Let us speak upon the mountain." If the Azure Pond sect had always been the greedy jackal pressing down upon the Li family in their history, seeking to drain them dry, then the Golden Feather sect was undoubtedly the smiling tiger at the side, licking its fur while watching. Though rumors claimed amicable ties with the Li family, in truth it had been more indifference than goodwill. If it were only that, it would not be so bad. Yet Li Chenghui of the Chengming generation had perished in vain in the affair of Sidu Mo of the Golden Tang Gate years ago. It was a matter Li Ziming deeply lamented. More than one Purple Mansion realm cultivator had schemed against the Li family in that incident. Fearing retaliation from such a young Purple Mansion realm as himself, they had taken the opportunity to fan the flames and strike a few opportunistic blows. The Golden Feather sect's indifference had amounted to allowing others to wield the Sidhu family as a blade. As for whether they had offered support, who can say? Li Ziming could not lay all the blame upon the Golden Feather sect. It was not even clear exactly how many Purple Mansion realm cultivators had acted back then. The more one speculated, the more dangerous it became. He could only sigh inwardly. It has always been like this. How could it ever be made clear, so long as Zhao Wei remains unharmed? Thus, bearing such a past, Li Ziming led him up the mountain. Taoist Master Tianhuo seemed to bear no particular sentiment and simply said with a smile, "Zheajing must have gained much this time. I heard the Buddhist cultivator returned empty-handed. As for me, I arrived halfway through. Wang Xiaoxiao has been taken in by the Chengyun Gate." This outcome differed little from Li Ziming's expectations. If he had intended to take Master Beiyin, then Wang Xiaoxiao could not possibly remain there waiting for him. She would certainly have been taken away. As expected, she had fallen into the hands of Chengyun Gate. Tianhuo took his seat and waved for Su Yan to wait outside. Only then did he smile and say, "I just exchanged blows with one of the 5 bright ones of the Pure Victory Dao. After that, I encountered members of the Hellion family and learned that they have been growing close to the Emptiness Dao of late. They insisted on competing over that Yeasa Chengmi and nearly came to blows with Lotus Temple." Li Ziming regarded them all as troublemakers. It would be best if they truly fought. His thoughts began to turn inward. The cassia that enveloped Master Beiyin is still in my hands. Anything specifically meant to protect Master Beiyin should not be ordinary, but I have no use for a Buddhist cultivator's item. I should find a way to sell it. Unaware of his thoughts, Tianhuo paused briefly. His eyes flicked toward him as he smiled and said, "The Hellion family was once illustrious, though they have struggled for many years. Now that they have a chance to breathe, they are resented by both the Gao family and White Horse Temple, just like the Emptiness Dao. Whether for circumstances or alliances, they have little choice but to draw close to the Emptiness Dao." Yet the Emptiness Dao's 2 journeys to Jiangbei, stirring the conflict between North and South, were merely the acts of those driven by desperation. It is not a good vessel to board. Now they hope to rely on Miffin to gain some respite. That is why they pulled others into ambushing the Purple Smoke Gate, and look at it now. How much have they truly gained? What is he implying? Only gained how much? Li Ziming was taken aback by the veiled insinuation and probed softly, "I cannot judge this clearly. The Hellion family may have their own reasons for standing with the Emptiness Dao. I have heard their lands lie along the river bend, and that they must contend with northern tribes and demonic creatures. Their surroundings are hardly peaceful." Indeed, Tianhuo lowered his gaze slightly. Li Ziming felt a faint unease rise within as Tianhuo continued, "I have heard that you have recently grown close with the supreme Yang Dao lineage. That is no small matter. Zheajing is of imperial descent and carries himself uprightly, so such destiny follows naturally. Though our 2 houses are separated by but a single mountain, if there is any assistance we can offer, it would be best to maintain frequent contact." Li Ziming quickly replied, "I would not dare trouble the immortal sect without cause. I have a matter to request of you." Tianhuo smiled and said, "Matters have mostly been divided now. I brought Su Yan back and suddenly thought of the River Mountain Sutra. I came seeking to borrow it for a while." He continued with a trace of regret. The River Mountain Sutra has not encountered its true destined bearer and has remained unused all these years. Duanyin came once before, hoping to open it, but no suitable candidate appeared. Now that we have Su Yan, I have made this trip. Li Ziming had long since understood the meaning of bringing Su Yan along. He sent a silent instruction and said with a smile, "This is a good matter. The River Mountain Sutra has merely been stored in our family treasury. If the immortal sect has use for it, you may take it. When the opportunity arises in the future, simply send a portion to the lake. That will suffice as acknowledgement." To his surprise, Tian Huo immediately rose to his feet and said in a deeper tone, "What reasoning is this? Golden Feather will never shirk any favor that should be acknowledged. There is no principle of taking from the lake without return. This matter should count as a debt owed by me instead." Li Ziming met his smiling expression, unease now churning within him, and saw the other sigh. "It is only a cultivation technique." The Sidhu family also possessed but a single cultivation technique, yet it still required the cultivators of the supreme Yang lineage to make a trip. After a brief hesitation, Li Ziming finally asked, "The Golden Tang Gate. Its end was truly tragic. Though my family has always been its enemy, we could not bear to see immortal descendants humiliated in such a manner. A few collateral branches remained at the time, and they were sent to my family." When this matter was raised, Tian Huo's smile did not diminish. He avoided Li Ziming's gaze and deftly sidestepped the topic. "Oh, the Emptiness Tao has built a temple upon Mount Tangdao. I hear it is called the Great Primordial Hidden Radiance Temple. Quite an imposing name." As he spoke, he shook his head with a faint laugh, yet his hand rested upon the teacup without moving. At last, Ding Weizeng hurried in, carrying a jade box. He placed the jade box upon the table and opened the lid. He carefully removed the golden cloth cover, revealing the River Mountain Sutra resting at the center. "Good." Li Ziming handed it to Tian Huo. The Taoist master accepted it with a smile and said in a serious tone, "I shall keep the righteousness of your esteemed family firmly in mind. In recent years, clan sister Qiushui has entered seclusion, cultivating the great method of splitting spirit and refining mercury to preserve essence. She has no mind to manage the sect. The sect is presently overseen by Tiank and myself. Simply send word to the Golden Feather sect." After a few more words, he flicked his sleeve and rose. As if recalling something, he asked, "Your family's auspicious child must also have entered seclusion by now, I presume." Li Ziming met his gaze briefly and did not answer. The young man understood regardless, smiled, and transformed into a streak of radiant light that fled into the great void. Ding Weizeng kept his head lowered as Li Ziming's expression froze in place. He remained silent for a long time, one hand still pressed against the table without moving. Sensing the mood, the man clumsily began to clear the table. He gathered the jade box, the tea, and the cloth one by one. Just as he reached for Tian Huo's jade cup, Li Ziming shook his head. "Taoist master." Li Ziming raised a hand to stop him and said softly, "You may leave." Ding Weizeng hastily bowed and withdrew. Li Ziming stepped forward slowly, gazing at his own eyes reflected in the tea within the cup. When a Purple Mansion Realm cultivator feels joy or anger, their divine ability manifests outwardly and resonates with surrounding things. When Changxi died, the letter he left behind was so heavy that only cultivators could lift it. When the matter of Golden Tang Gate was mentioned, his rage flared skyward, with hatred grinding at his teeth. Yet he dared not voice it, suppressing both emotion and divine ability to this extent. This cup had borne Tian Huo's suppressed fury and now weighed more than 1,000 kilograms. Had Li Ziming not been present, the jade table would have toppled over and shattered at once. Chapter 1408, Signs of a Southward Advance, I. Although the Golden Tang Gate has declined for many years, the Azure Pond sect has relied on Golden Feather sect to mediate ever since it has weakened. Later, when the Sidhu family obtained that spirit cord, the Golden Feather sect stopped paying any attention to it. Everyone knows of Qiushui's attempt to achieve fruition attainment, as well as that prime magnetism counters whole pill. Tian Huo's anger is understandable. Perhaps Golden Tang's destruction was tacitly permitted by the Golden Feather sect, or they were powerless to stop it. Yet the transformation of Mount Tangdao into a treasured land of prime magnetism may have been beyond Golden Feather sect's expectations. The northern powers are tangled and complicated. Is this a warning from Mount Luoxia, a small move by the Dharma Master of the Emptiness Tao and the Dharma Master of the Great Desire Tao, or perhaps both? Li Ziming quietly stared at the jade cup. He had once held some doubts, but from Tian Huo's perspective, the Golden Feather sect had truly lost face this time. The minor cultivators below might not understand, yet which Purple Mansion Realm cultivator lacked experience. Even if they did not know the transformation of Golden Qi, the prime magnetism that appeared at the end, and its influence on spiritual aura had been witnessed by all. Perhaps an immortal sent a servant down the mountain, and after a few careless steps, the fellow stepped on a tiger's tail. Yet since the tiger is acting under orders, he could not bite back, and now must even wonder whether the immortal is unwilling to let the tiger cub grow up. Li Ziming sighed inwardly. The Golden Feather sect stood behind a golden core power, yet they could only remain silent in the face of such a matter. One reason was the limits of the current situation. Taiyuan was most likely still in the outer heavens. But another reason lay in the fact that although the Golden Feather sect had many Purple Mansion realm cultivators, unless Taoist Master Qiushui personally acted, they probably could not force Emptiness Dao, Great Desire Dao, and the Hellion family to retreat. But with true monarch Taiyuan absent, could the Golden Feather sect truly allow Qiushui to act? And if she did act, how would they handle the situation afterward? Tianhuo had left with a heart full of anger, yet Li Ziming's own expression gradually grew grim. Mount Tangdao has a temple established upon it. However, the Golden Feather sect has implied that they will not interfere. The implications were far from trivial. After Emptiness Dao broke the gate, they had not left. Instead, they built a temple on Mount Tangdao. If the Golden Feather sect still refused to step forward, then this would no longer be a mere act of plunder. But would the Buddhist cultivators stop there? The balance between the north and south was already fragile. If the Buddhist cultivators continued moving south, then the fall of the Golden Tang Gate would mean the collapse of the western gateway of Su State. Brahma Cloud lay just beyond the mountains, and beyond Brahma Cloud stood the gates of his Moongaze Lake. Although the Golden Tang Gate was hardly a Raitiu force, its long survival had its reasons. Now that it had been destroyed, the Golden Feather sect's refusal to act was humiliating, yet the Li family also felt a thorn pressing against their back. No wonder they came looking for me. Li Ziming had long known that the situation of the supreme Yang Dao lineage was uncertain, yet with his family standing by the riverbank, was there any other path to take? Sighing inwardly, he dispersed the divine ability lingering on the cup with his mana. At that moment, Ding Weizeng reported that Li Jiangxia and Li Quan had come to request an audience. Li Ziming waved his hand to allow them to come up, still somewhat distracted. Li Quan soon appeared in the lead, with Li Jiangxia striding behind in bold steps. When they arrived before him and bowed, Li Ziming asked the question he cared about most: "How is Jiangbei?" The woman replied respectfully, even though her face was filled with worry. The Buddhist cultivators do not dare move against Chengyan Gate. Instead, they have crossed the mountains through the territory of the Golden Tang Gate. They have taken back all the lands once belonging to the Golden Tang Gate and established the great primordial hidden radiance temple. Now they have crossed the stream and entered the lands of Brahma Cloud. Large and small forces alike are terrified, and many are showing signs of surrendering at the mere sight of them. As for the east, Su Yan has joined the Golden Feather sect. The devil cultivators within the territory of capital Immortal Dao have fled in all directions, yet the Dao lineage has suffered severe damage to its vital qi. It is said that there are merciful ones still present in that territory and are extremely arrogant, yet Taoist Master Yehui has not been seen anywhere. They really have crossed the mountains. Li Ziming felt a headache brewing as he said, "Damn this Yehui, you still refuse to show yourself at a time like this. His own territory lies beyond Hidden East, yet he does not even want his Dao lineage anymore." Li Ziming might curse him, yet ruthless indifference had its advantages. After all, Li Ziming himself could not act that way. South of the Brahma Cloud territory lay floating south and Hidden East, lands the Li family had always watched closely. The two juniors had clearly come to ask about those places. Li Jiangxia stepped forward and said firmly, "If Taoist Master gives the order, we will lead a force of troops and advance together with the Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. In less than an hour, Floating South and Hidden East will both fall into our family's hands." Floating South lay directly across the northern shore and had long served as a buffer between the Li family and the north. Naturally, it could not be abandoned lightly, yet the current situation had grown increasingly severe and could not be ignored. Li Ziming rose to his feet and flicked his sleeve. Colored light flashed, and 4 Dharma artifacts appeared upon the table. Each of these Dharma artifacts carried an ancient air. They were a saber, a spear, a feather fan, and a treasure pearl. They were simple in design, yet were all fine items. Among them, the purple radiant white Li pearl was the best. It belonged to the path of purple essence and shone like a star. Its quality surpassed Li Minggong's 6-cornered scarlet flame lamp and nearly matched Li Zhaowei's Desheng. Even Li Ziming looked at it twice and praised it. This purple radiant white Li pearl is undoubtedly a Dharma artifact forged with ancient techniques. Unfortunately, our family's purple essence has not flourished, so it will remain with me for now. After all, his own cultivation method still depended on Purple Smoke Gate, so keeping such an item would not be wrong. The remaining artifacts, the spear Astonishing Ring Spear, the feather fan Intercloud Clear Radiance Fan, and the long saber Bright Candle Saber, were all comparable in quality to the six-cornered Scarlet Flame Lamp. They were all fine items for members of the Li family. Li Ziming gave his orders gravely. Times are not what they once were. The ones coming are Buddhist cultivators from the north. Divide these items and go to the northern shore to wait. Await my command.
Yes.
The two responded together, bowed, and withdrew. Li Ziming did not bother with further arrangements as he transformed into radiant light and sped away. After leaving Moongaze Lake, he saw bright radiance shining in the distant Great Void. The prime magnetism energy in the north was still undergoing transformation and silently influencing the Great Void. Clearly, the effects caused by Mount Tangdao were still intensifying. He soon encountered Ning Wan within the Great Void. Fairy Qiu, who had returned as though stepping upon snow. When she saw him, she said softly, "Greetings, Zheajing. Your arrival is timely. I was just about to come look for you."
Li Ziming's expression was grave as he sighed.
In a straightforward but soft tone, the Buddhist cultivators still show signs of moving south. Qiuhu, do you have any plans? The territories of the supreme Yang Dao lineage were concentrated along the coast. In the eastern half of Zhangbei stood Chengyan Gate, capital Immortal Dao, and Xuanmiao Temple, forming a barrier in the north. The Golden Tang Gate once guarded the western approach, while only Moongaze Lake guarded the south. Ning Wan naturally understood the gravity of the matter. She could not allow him to feel abandoned at such a time. She answered in a deep voice, "Rest assured, Zheajing. I have already sent people to invite Ziyuqui Dao Gate and Sword Gate. If the Golden Feather sect refuses to act, we cannot simply stand by." She was clearly here for this very matter and said gravely, "Did you know that Helian Wumeng of the Helian family has also arrived from the north and joined forces with the Emptiness Dao? That man is undoubtedly a devil cultivator. Such aggressive momentum suggests this situation is truly not simple." Li Ziming did not know whether people from the Golden Feather sect had contacted her, but he secretly let out a breath of relief and replied, "Whether this ends in battle or negotiation, we must draw a boundary with the Buddhist cultivators. We will need the help of our fellow cultivators. I will go to the capital Immortal Dao first. If the seniors arrive, come there directly to find me."
Chapter 1409, Signs of a Southward Advance, II.
Li Ziming did not harbor much goodwill, but even if Yehui did not return to provide aid, the capital Immortal Dao could not be moved or abandoned. It stood in the same situation as the Li family. The entire capital Immortal Dao would become allies sharing the same hatred. If a real battle broke out, a group of master monks heading south could also stand to one side and share the pressure. At the very least, the monks could not be allowed to break through freely. Otherwise, the wilderness would suffer as well. Guan Gongxiao and the others can still fight. One must prepare for the worst in everything. As Brahma Cloud, no one knew how dangerous it had become. Li Ziming certainly had no desire to go there alone. If he looked into the Great Void, who knew how many Maha or merciful ones might appear? He would also risk exposing his own abnormalities. It would be better to do the opposite and make a trip to the capital Immortal Dao. Ning Wan understood his thoughts. Even if Li Ziming did not go, she would have to go there to coordinate matters. Thus she simply nodded. "That is right. Even if Yehui does not return, the cultivators of our Immortal Dao cannot die in vain. Fellow Taoist Qiuqi and I will come together." Her expression carried a trace of helplessness as she changed the topic. "As for Xuanmiao Temple, I have already met Senior Sumian. He appeared and took Fei Qingfei away. I had thought it would be Chengyan, yet it turned out to be him. Old Qi used his divine ability to confuse others, and though it was skillful, it could not deceive my clear hearing." Ning Wan had cultivated a fate divine ability, and her own Dao lineage and spirit artifact were both formidable. Although Sumian had inherited a portion of the Tongxuan Dao lineage, he ultimately could not compare with Ning Wan and had left a few traces. Perhaps Taoist Master Xuan Yi had mentioned something earlier, or perhaps the Li family's relationship with them was far better than with Xuanmiao Temple. Now that they were in the same boat, she spoke plainly, which caused Li Ziming to sigh softly. "Fei Qingfei is only a mortal. What could Sumian possibly want by taking her away?"
Baiai Mountain Gates.
Brilliant golden light flashed across the sky as a golden figure with a crimson face and protruding fangs rode a red tiger across the heavens. It was as large as a mountain, and its blue and crimson eyes burned with raging flames. Its voice thundered like rolling thunder, enough to stop a child's crying.
"May I ask where Senior Yehui is? I am Chilu, and I wish to meet the senior."
The voice scattered the clouds and caused the purple water radiance over the mountain gate to spread outward in rippling waves. Clearly, the Purple Mansion Realm Grand Formation had already been fully activated, cutting off the Great Void with immense force. Naturally, Chilu could not break the Purple Mansion Realm Grand Formation. yet he delighted in seeing the people inside panic and shout in fear. He burst into booming laughter that shook the sky. Still, though he appeared to be enjoying himself, the flames burning behind him kept flickering and formed a spinning wheel that pulsed without pause. It seemed to be calculating the changes between the great void and the manifest world. He was ready to depart at any moment. After all, Yehui was also a mid-stage purple mansion realm cultivator who possessed 3 divine abilities. Inside the formation, the black-robed Gate Maz. Ter's expression was so dark that it seemed as if blood might drip from it. He burned with rage when he saw the giant outside striking the formation like a gong, while the cultivators below staggered and bled from their ears. Yet he knew their Taoist master would not appear. It is not just Chilu. Reports say there are at least 3 or even more merciful ones within the territory of the capital Immortal Dao. Over the past few years, Guan Gongxiao had practically worried himself gray. Devil cultivators rampaged freely within the territory and chaos reigned everywhere. He also had to worry about the concerns of his superior and dared not act freely. After finally enduring until the superior left, a Taoist master from the Golden Feather sect descended from the sky and took Su Yan away. Boom! When he saw golden light rushing in from 2 more directions, he grew even more terrified. One merciful one held a sword, another held a blade. Their massive bodies looked equally formidable, though they were less flamboyant than the tiger rider. The purple water rippled more and more violently, and Guan Gongxiao began to panic inwardly, 2 on this side and 2 on that side. Even the Purple Mansion Realm Grand Formation cannot withstand this kind of assault. Yet colored clouds rose in the sky and radiance spread in all directions. Chilu suddenly looked up with a wary expression. The patterns on his face flickered and twisted with fury as he cursed, "Li Ziming, you still dare to show yourself." Boom! Blazing radiant light flashed across the sky as dark clouds split apart, revealing 2 brilliant pillars of the heavenly gate. Banners fluttered while golden phoenixes accompanied it, descending from the heavens with dazzling trails of flame. That thing again. None of the 3 merciful ones dared meet it, nor did anyone dare reach out to receive it. Each transformed into chi and fled in different directions. Heavenly light rolled across the sky, stirring wind and dust as cultivators scattered in retreat. A Taoist master clad in a white golden Taoist robe stepped down upon the heavenly gate with a cold expression and said without courtesy, "Fellow Taoist, you come to stir trouble within the territory of our immortal Tao and leave the people suffering. Are you planning to return to the Buddhist land already?" Chilu truly felt wary and had no desire to fight Li Ziming in such dangerous territory. After all, he still didn't know whether Yehui was present or not. If he were to be suppressed by the heaven-venerating gate and Yehui suddenly appeared, then Chilu might as well close his eyes and wait for death. He quickly calculated, "I came only to test Yehui's whereabouts and observe the reactions of the surrounding Dao lineages. That is why I made such a grand display. I must not lose this Dharma body here." Thus he dared not approach. He summoned the light of the Buddhist land from afar, laughed loudly, and shouted, "What is this? Fellow Taoist Li has come to play the champion of justice. We spread the true path and promote the sacred way. What business is it of yours in the south? This is not your concern." The Buddhist land was not far from here, and the cultivators of the supreme Yang Dao lineage had not yet all arrived. Although Li Ziming knew there were only 3 opponents before him, he did not rush into battle. He suspended the heavenly gate above the capital Immortal Dao Mountain Gate and faced the 3 calmly. He said, "Then come up and promote your true path." Since Li Ziming remained unmoved, Chilu did not advance. The Buddhist land had an excellent intelligence network. Everyone was already aware that Li Ziming now possessed both a spirit embryo and a spirit artifact. He was far different from before. Chilu would not test the mettle of his Dharma body recklessly. Moreover, since Li Ziming had arrived, Ningguan and Kuiki were likely not far away, so Chilu merely rode his tiger away, secretly observing and assessing their strength. On the other hand, Li Ziming did not fear his delaying tactics. He knew the surrounding great void like the back of his hand. Soon Guan Gongxiao rose on the wind and passed through the formation, crying out, "Taoist Master's righteousness is boundless. This humble one receives your grace with reverence. I am endlessly grateful." Whether his emotions were complicated or not was unclear, but shared interests had always bound people together. The same principle applied to the Golden Feather sect and to the capital Immortal Dao. In truth, the capital Immortal Dao's ambiguous attitude had always stemmed from this. Li Ziming kept his expression cold and asked calmly, "I simply cannot stand Buddhist cultivators. Where has Yehui gone?" Guan Gongxiao hurriedly bowed and replied respectfully, "Taoist Master, our Taoist Master obtained an opportunity and set out to travel across the outer sea. No one knows where he has gone, nor when he will return." Bai Mentio. Ning opportunity Guan Gongxiao implied two things. First, that Yehui could return, though whether it was worth returning was another matter. Second, that Yehui was not in secluded recovery from injury, but remained a mid-stage Purple Mansion realm cultivator with 3 divine abilities. He quickly added, "Our Taoist master spoke with me several times in past years. He said that Moongaze Lake and our gate were natural allies, yet he was constrained by Taoist master Chengxiao and had no choice but to trouble you over the matter of Profound Peak Gate. He felt deeply ashamed. Now everyone in the capital Immortal Dao owes Taoist master Zheijing a portion of gratitude." He began to cry in his agitation. Li Ziming glanced at him, unconcerned whether the words were true or false, and simply frowned as he said, "Send word for him to return at once. The Buddhist cultivators have reached your very gate. If he does nothing, then he will see only your corpses when he finally returns." While giving orders aloud, his thoughts sank. Xuni once mentioned that Yehui struggled when fighting Buddhist cultivators, yet it should not have reached this extent. Li Ziming slowly examined Guan Gongxiao before him. Even if the Taoist master is absent, there should still be a direct disciple remaining. He must cultivate the same method. One can judge the whole from apart. He looked at him calmly and asked quietly, "Have you fought Buddhist cultivators before? What impressions did you gain?" Chapter 14:10, 3 Heads Felled by the Sword Eye. Sweat appeared on Guan Gongxiao's forehead, and he felt somewhat frightened. He hurriedly said, "Taoist master, we have already exchanged blows. These master monks can dissolve my spell arts with Buddhist light and colored radiance. A single illumination is akin to pulling the foundation from beneath a tall building, causing everything to collapse and disperse, forcing one to bow and submit. They are not easy to deal with. However, these fellows cannot withstand Dharma artifacts. Though their bodies are sturdy, they carry no weapons at hand. They are not overly troublesome when fighting with spells." Guan Gongxiao naturally knew the strengths and weaknesses of his own Dao lineage. He had likely long understood that the capital guard Dao had difficulty dealing with Buddhist cultivators. Now that Li Ziming asked, he spoke very plainly. "Spell arts are neutralized. I have never heard that Yehui possesses as many spell arts as Chengxiao. He merely carries a pair of spirit artifacts that can produce flames and thunder. The capital guard Dao. It is commonly said to be a method of ghosts, gods, and mountain spirits. It does not match well against Buddhist methods, so being slightly inferior is normal." The cultivators of the capital Immortal Dao were slowly approaching in fear, led by the saber-wielder Gongsun Beifan. When he reached Li Ziming, he bowed and said respectfully, "Greetings, Taoist master." Li Ziming glanced at him and asked, "How is the Song family?" Mentioning the Song family inevitably referred to Song Yunbai. She had the highest cultivation among the Lord's lovers. Guan Gongxiao's expression dimmed as he answered softly, "Taoist master, she has already been taken away by a Taoist master. We do not know his appearance. Judging by his clothing and the clogs on his feet, we estimate that he is a cultivator from the south of Wu State, from Lacquer Marsh." The Song family were supporters of the capital Immortal Dao, yet having a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator taken away without a word was certainly not a good matter. When Fei Qingye of the Fei family from Moongaze Lake had left, even though she was of little importance, Li Ziming had wished he could throw the entire Fei family into Huyi Mountain. How much more serious was it when Song Yunbai was one of the Song family's primary decision-makers? Moreover, Lacquer Marsh was the greatest marsh in the south. Most cultivators there depended on Mount Chenghui. Only a few Taoist masters and the sword Immortal Dueling could be considered rogue cultivators. Most were affiliated with Mount Chenghui, the foremost power of Wu State. Mount Chenghui is even stronger than the Golden Feather sect. Geographically, it dominates its corner in peace and calls itself the Chenghui Dao lineage. All under it regard Chenghui as the orthodox tradition. No wonder he feels uneasy. Li Ziming continued to turn the situation over in his head without concern for the trouble it might bring. As he listened casually, several streaks of light suddenly shot through the sky. They were led by Kuiki, the current leader of Great Ziyukui Temple. His face was long and his brows slender. He still wore the same black robe, with a black rope Dharma artifact tied at his waist, along with the mottled bronze Great Kui Convergence bronze sword. Walking beside him was Tinglan, who had spent many years in seclusion healing her injuries. Her complexion looked good as she frowned while speaking about something. Since the occasion was formal, she was no longer wearing her favored autumn yellow robe, but instead a set of purple garments. She also held the purple throne Serene Spirit Pavilion in her hands. Behind them on one side was Hufu, with a cloth sack tied at his waist. He had grown acquainted with Li Ziming in the Outer Sea and nodded in greeting from afar. On the other side was the gentle and graceful Ning Wan, holding the frosty absolute sword. The four before Li Ziming were the Taoist masters of the supreme Yang Dao lineage who walked the lands of Jiangnan. not counting those who disliked appearing or refused to appear. These alone were already capable of deciding the life and death of more than half of Yue state. Beside him, Guan Gongxiu had already fallen to his knees and dared not raise his head. The cultivators on either side were also almost all collapsed on the ground. Meanwhile, Qilu had naturally fled long ago. Li Ziming casually instructed, "Take your people and guard the west. When fighting breaks out in the south and the people on the lake head north, you will also bring your forces and move west." After speaking, he withdrew his divine ability and rose upon light, taking the initiative to offer a salute. "I truly thank all of you, fellow Taoists." The 4 Taoist masters returned the salute. Qiuqi was the most open in manner. He extended one hand forward in a gesture of invitation and said loudly, "Zheajing, you are too polite. Let us go together. We cannot allow the 7 Dharma forms to linger too long and defile the lands of Jiangbei." Li Ziming gave his thanks and stepped forward with them. When he saw the frosty absolute sword in Ningwan's hand, its blade painted with the scene of mysterious snow and the supreme yin ascension to the heavens, he sighed inwardly. Sword cultivators of Jiangnan would probably have no regrets even if they died after merely touching this sword. Wu Fu noticed him looking at the frosty absolute sword and simply smiled. "This sword is unique in the world. Only Taoist master Donghua Zuli can compare to it. The long saber blood fiend tower that Sidu Hu treats like a pillow is nothing but scrap metal next to it. Even Gu Shentong's arrogant tidebreaker falls behind by 3 tiers." After he finished speaking, Tinglin smiled and said, "You cannot compare them so casually. Look at who those people are." The Purple Mansion realm cultivators advanced on their divine abilities. Qiuqi heard Taoist Master Hufu's relaxed explanation, yet one hand rested on his sword as he rubbed it slowly and sighed. They cannot be compared. Although Taoist Master Hufu spoke casually as if he were relaxed, Li Ziming still sensed a faint hesitation in Qiuqi. It seemed he was somewhat anxious and worried about something. After all, they had to face Zhelu and Daisy of the Emptiness Dao. The Great Desire Dao at least had Pai Jia and Nuzi, though it was unclear how many Buddhist cultivators had been lost in earlier struggles or how many remain now. The Hellion family still has Purple Mansion realm cultivators in the wings. That was not even counting the merciful ones within the Buddhist land. Although the merciful ones were not as strong as Purple Mansion realm cultivators, groups of 3 or 5 were troublesome enough. There might even be 2 or 3 among them beneath the Golden Lotus throne who knew some spell arts and had experience fighting immortal cultivators, which made them even more troublesome. As he followed the group, he soon saw the radiance of the Buddhist land shining in the sky. Clusters of golden clouds floated above Mount Tangdao as prime magnetism flickered. The mountain itself towered into the clouds with jagged rocks everywhere. 2 enormous golden statues stood upon it. One bore countless eyes across its body and looked terrifying. The other had 3 heads and 12 arms, surrounded by multicolored light. Its eyes shone like stars in the high sky, and its hands were like suspended mountain peaks, wreathed in crimson clouds. Each was truly the size of a mountain. These 2 golden bodies were only a little shorter than the highest peak. They treated Tangdao Peak as a high-backed immortal throne and sat firmly before it, one facing west and the other east. Around them sat many merciful ones, all bathed in dense colored radiance that made the scene dazzling. The Taoist masters were no bigger than ants before these golden bodies, yet the colored clouds drifting through the sky paused. One of the merciful ones lying or standing on both sides immediately rode the wind forward and clasped his hands before them. "Taoist masters, you actually have the leisure to visit our great primordial hidden radiance temple." Li Ziming recognized the 2 golden statues with a single glance. One was Zhelu, the 6th-generation abbot of the Buddhist land Empt. In S Dao, the other was Pai Jia, the 5th generation of the Great Desire Dao. These 2 Mahas were not strangers. They had been the main forces behind the ambush of Tinglin and Qiuhu. It was Taoist Master Ling Mei of the Sword Gate who had eventually forced them back. If the 2 of them were personally guarding this place, it only showed that the Emptiness Dao and the Great Desire Dao had clearly decided together that the great primordial hidden radiance temple established on this mountain was of utmost importance. Taoist Master Qiuqi's expression darkened at the sight of 2 Mahas on the mountain putting on airs and sending only a merciful one without speaking themselves. He said coldly, "The northern Buddhists have taken Mount Tangdao and turned into such giant forms. Do you intend to cross the mountain and come to White River Stream as well?" The true monarch wielded his sword back then and nearly slew the Maha Liangli of the Sea of Desire, forcing him to swear a great oath not to cross the river for 300 years. Do you now intend to break that oath? Li Ziming understood immediately. Pai Jia was different from Zhelu and was not the foremost authority. Behind him stood Liangli, the Maha of the Sea of Desire who presided over the Buddhist land, whose cultivation was likely even higher. So he had once been struck down by the true monarch Shang Yuan. Yet Pai Jia remained calm when this matter was mentioned. The 12 hands behind him spread out as his voice rumbled. Our Liangli of Great Desire Dao once sought guidance from Jade True and benefited greatly. We are very grateful and will naturally not violate the oath. The emptiness Dao has gone south, so I have come myself to lend a little assistance. Li Ziming thought, I have never heard of this matter. Could it be that a Dharma master of Great Desire Dao once intervened to protect someone? He hesitated slightly, but the possibility seemed high. After all, true monarch Shang Yuan was a Jade True Sword immortal. Those who died at his hands likely died for real. If a Dharma master had intervened to save someone, it would not be impossible. Once a Dharma master acted, the impact could easily be suppressed even if someone had witnessed it. Moreover, true monarch Shang Yuan himself was not someone who liked to boast about such matters. Huiqi had no interest in arguing further and simply pressed a hand on his sword as he said, there is nothing to discuss. Mount Tangdao is beyond the Golden Feather sect's control, but White River Stream belongs to the lands of our immortal Dao. If you insist on crossing the river, we will settle it today. At this moment Zhelu finally spoke. 1,000 eyes blinked as his voice echoed faintly. The frosty absolute sword possesses heaven-shaking power and is truly formidable. It is even more so in Ling Mei's hands, but regarding White River Stream, it cannot be settled without a battle. As for you, girl, I fear this is not your true body. His words were suddenly directed at Tinglin. We of the Buddhist Dao have seen your sect's migration command token. If Tinglin were truly a transformation of the migration command token, and her injuries had not yet healed, then their side would effectively be down one more person. The moment those words were spoken, Li Ziming knew the matter could not end peacefully, yet Tinglin seemed not to hear at all and only smiled as she looked at him. Suddenly heavenly light flashed across the sky, and 2 more golden bodies appeared in the heavens on both sides. Daisy and Nosy. But it did not end there. Rolling baleful chi surged up from the earth as ground flames erupted into the sky. They weaved through the air until they quickly formed into a middle-aged man wearing a pure white feathered robe adorned with glazed ornaments. The handsome man held a long-handled oar-blade weapon that was entirely black, neither quite a blade nor quite a spear. His snow-white feathered robe fluttered in the wind, his hair loose over his shoulders, and 18 glazed jewels hung from his waist. He looked up and smiled. So this is what the Southerners look like, nothing special. Li Ziming needed only a glance to know this man specialized in weapon arts. Beside him, Ning Wan sighed and muttered, Hellion Wumeng. The sky was filled with imposing Buddhist and majestic demonic presences, yet the side of the supreme Yang Dao lineage remained calm. The first few Taoist masters at least watched, but Hufu simply lowered his head and admired the baleful chi beneath his feet. Strangely, although the figures on the opposite side arrived with great momentum, none charged forward. Only a few merciful ones flew up to form a formation to meet the enemy. Perhaps they too were waiting for Ling Mei. Huiqi gazed at the golden bodies in the distance and shifted slightly, revealing Ning Wan behind him. The great void suddenly echoed. Ning Wan stood holding the sword in reverence, and a man appeared before her. The man stood around 2 meters tall, and his figure was thin yet upright. His robes were black and white, with only a gourd hanging at his waist. His brow bones were full and sharp, his beard and hair neatly tied into a crown. His hands were clasped behind his back, and his calm eyes beneath his brows stared at the golden bodies. His bearing was not remarkable. If not for the dense radiance of divine ability surrounding him, he would have looked like a village schoolteacher. Yet when he stood before the crowd, the direct disciples of the Supreme Yang lineage all bowed together and said respectfully, Welcome, Grand Taoist Master. Chapter 14:11, 3 Heads Felled by the Sword, II. This man was the Grand Taoist Master of Ziyuqi, a figure from the same era as Zaipai and the 3 Yuans, the sword immortal Luing who was famed for his skill in battle. The Supreme Yang Dao lineage had shone like a sky full of stars in those years. The 3 Yuans stood together, and the 2 Zis shone side by side, but even among them, Taoist Master Luing was famous for his skill in combat. Even the Purple Essence Dao lineage, which was not known for combat but for its profound cultivation, had Taoist Master Zaipai, who could still drive Buddhist cultivators away before her death. How much more terrifying was the one before them. For a moment, the clouds of heaven and earth froze, while colored light and treasure radiance stuttered. Hellion Wumeng extinguished his baleful fire in caution, as Daisy and Nuzi stopped their transformations in fright. No one dared move first when they saw that clean white hand resting on the sword. He has already come, he came in person. The battle has not even begun. Jianbei has not lost a single piece of land. Just 1 golden Tang gate, and the Supreme Yang Dao lineage has already brought out a sword immortal. The sword immortal raised his brows as he looked up. His aura transformed instantly. His spiritual sense had already locked onto all the cultivators like Mount Tai pressing down from above, immovable and overwhelming. His voice was calm as he said, "You have wanted me to come to Jiangbei for a long time." All his attention seemed to be on the frosty absolute sword in his hand. That monk spoke correctly. "Without a battle, nothing will be clear. I knew long ago that you wished to force me to appear. Since that is the case, you must pay the price for my appearance." The moment these words were spoken, Zhelu stiffened in alarm on the mountain. He no longer cared that moving would invite a strike. Brilliant light burst from his body as 1,000 hands and eyes released pink radiance together. The others saw someone taking the disaster upon himself and felt as if they had been granted amnesty. None cared about him anymore as they turned to flee. But the sword immortal's strike took only an instant. A fierce sword momentum surged into the sky. The pattern of profound snow and supreme yin ascent appeared, along with the vision of autumn fading into winter and the harmony of heaven and earth. After hundreds of years, the frosty absolute sword finally revealed the peak union of mystic power and sword intent to cultivators. Luing's sword Dao and cultivation pushed its range to the furthest extent. Unless Jingzhen or Murong Zia were present, who could face this sword without coughing blood or despairing. The falling snow scattered and resonated with his perfected divine ability. All cultivators present were suppressed in an instant. They could not even open the great void. The thousand-eyed Maha, the sixth-generation Zhelu, was terrified out of his wits as he leaped up, but he suddenly froze. Though the sword light was fierce and forced countless fractures to appear on his Dharma body, it was not aimed at him. Instead, it was Pai Jia, who had just risen to leave, whose expression had no time to change. He had no time to defend. He stared at the terrifying sword light rapidly enlarging before him, locking both his soul and Dharma body in place. Terror pierced his heart. Oh! Thunder rolled through wind and clouds in the sky. After the sword fell, the Mahas and the demonic cultivator finally managed to connect with the great void. The thousand-eyed Maha on the mountain had barely gained a chance to live. How could he help anyone now? He followed the rule that better the other monk die than oneself. He immediately released endless illusionary light and fled. The sword intent moved like light. The merciful ones unlucky enough to stand in the path of the sword chi died instantly and were reduced to ash. Crack! Next came the shattering of whatever trump cards and treasure artifacts the Maha possessed. The sound of glazed crystal breaking echoed through the great void, rising and falling in violent tremors. The pink light and sword light vanished together. The cold moonlight withdrew. The Maha's true body disappeared, and the sword immortal was nowhere to be seen. Brilliant light fell from the sky like pink rain. 3 enormous heads preceded rolling clouds of dust as they crashed toward the ground under the flashing light of prime magnetism, blotting out the sky. Treasure radiance shone like stars and black chi spread like night. More than 10 merciful ones nearby had not yet reacted. Suppressed by the falling snow, they remained frozen in place. The descending heads looked like blazing meteors against them. Li Ziming rode light forward as he heard Kueki shout sharply, "Seize this opportunity." Although the Mahas had fled, merciful ones still remained in the sky, suppressed by the sword light and unable to escape. Although Li Ziming did not know where Pai Jia and that sword immortal had gone, Pai Jia had already lost half his life, and the favorable situation before him was obvious. Luing had not swung that sword merely to kill someone. The power of that strike had not been concentrated at a single point but dispersed. The momentum had suppressed the entirety of Mount Tangdao. Was it not precisely for a situation like this? He felt great joy in his heart. Everyone we kill now reduces the pressure in the future. Almost as soon as that thought ended, Tinglin's incarnation in the sky dissipated. Instead, her true body appeared at the highest point of the heavens, her robes fluttering as she held a gray-white small vessel. It was the upper minister vessel. The lid had long been opened. A gout of radiant flame leapt from within, shimmering in the dual colors of deep indigo and bright blue. The long-prepared boundless water fire poured down, turning into a rain of flames across the sky. Boundless water fire was a special spiritual flame that severed the great void. Empowered by the upper minister vessel, it had accumulated within the great void for who knew how long. Hundreds of streams of flame burst forth in an instant, almost falling upon every merciful one. Yet boundless water fire was still a spiritual flame and could not achieve quick victory. Even empowered by a spirit artifact, it was still a step slower than Purple Mansion realm speed. Yet the shattered region of the great void expanded rapidly. At that moment, the 4 direct heirs of the supreme Yang Dao lineage acted as one. Purple pavilions rose into the air, white snow scattered, black cords bound their targets, and radiance descended. Boom! Li Ziming's heaven-venerating gate descended from the sky amid surging brilliance. Seizing the opportunity, it crashed down upon a golden pavilion at the foot of Mount Tangdao. 3 merciful ones had been sitting cross-legged inside. Suppressed by the terrifying force of the frosty absolute sword, they had only just managed to fly up. Only one of them, with 4 arms and 2 heads and somewhat stronger, was farther away and barely managed to shift aside. Boom! Purple flames and heavenly light flashed together. The other 2 had no time to move and were simultaneously suppressed beneath the heavenly gate. Brilliant energy burst upward, splitting the ground and causing the cliffs on both sides to crumble and slide down. The 4-armed, 2-headed merciful one nearby had only just reacted to the lightning-fast changes. He barely avoided the heavenly gate, and a chill surged through his entire body. If he suppresses me now, my Dharma body would certainly be lost. Yet matters were far worse than that. He had barely avoided the heavenly gate, but he had no time to enter the great void. The indigo and blue dual-colored flames had already reached him. Senior brother Huakong. With a shout of warning from 2 junior brothers within the formation, all traces of the great void within the merciful one's spiritual sense vanished as the flames arrived. Damn it, boundless waterfire again. The power of boundless waterfire had been spread too widely, and most of its force was spent during flight. It was no longer a serious threat to Huakong. The real problem was that it severed the great void, which made it extremely troublesome. Fortunately, Huakong still knew 2 spell arts. Pressing both palms urgently to his chest, he instantly transformed into 3 golden body phantoms. Each was lifelike, moving identically yet occupying different positions. The upper minister vessel did have the ability to distinguish the true body, but it was too far away and the affected area too wide. It could no longer reach Huakong effectively. Influenced by the 2 bodies on either side, the flames could only slip through the gap in the middle and drift away. Huakong felt heat on his face, but there was not a trace of relief in his heart. He raised his head in despair. The man in the golden-white Taoist robe had abandoned the heavenly gate and stepped through light to stand before him. Green and yellow radiance rippled like water as his once perfect Dharma body suddenly sank as if falling into a swamp. The pattern of mountains and Ivers covered an enormous range. It not only bound him, but also entangled the 2 junior brothers within radiant light. Taoist Master Zhejiang. The radiance of the ruler of manifested mountains and rivers rippled in the air. The merciful one grew anxious, but sensed a mysterious response. Sovereign Weiing. The green-yellow radiance of the ruler of manifested mountains and rivers paused briefly as the spirit ruler halted in the air. The merciful one's 2 clones vanished like leftover snow beneath the blazing sun. Huakong nearly spat blood. Bringing 2 hands together before his chest, he summoned 2 golden hammers with the other pair and smashed them toward the Taoist. The Taoist master in golden white garments moved his lips slightly. A flame interwoven with red and white surged from his mouth, slipping between the 2 hammers before falling down as brilliant golden fire. It was the profound fire of the 3 phases guard. At the same time, Li Ziming's hands formed seals of bright radiant fire white light. The supreme Yang resonance radiant art operated and clung to his palms. He raised both hands and caught the incoming golden hammers. Clang! With the heaven venerating gate empowering Li Ziming's Dharma body and the supreme Yang resonance radiant art echoing with it, along with the support of the ruler of manifested mountains and rivers, the 2 hastily swung golden hammers burst into radiant fire white light in his palms. Their momentum slowed until they were held firmly in his hands. But the profound fire of the 3 phases guard had already poured down like scorching lava, flowing along the cheeks of the merciful one Huakong. The heat forced a scream from him as streams like molten golden lacquer ran down his chest. Buzz! The gray-white upper minister vessel in the sky finally stopped spewing flames. This rather intelligent spirit artifact had faithfully carried out its master's orders. After scanning the mountain range once, whether out of anger or lingering recognition of Li Ziming, its mouth turned again toward the 4-armed merciful one who had avoided the flames but failed to escape into the great void. The 4-armed merciful one felt a chill rush to his head. Damn it. Li Ziming naturally seized the opportunity. A flash of light shot from between his brows as heavenly radiance, hidden light erupted violently toward the man's face at point-blank range. Heavenly radiance, hidden light followed the path of bright light. Facing the enemy directly in this open manner only increased its power. The merciful one before him could only cry out in despair, "This is bitter. I have fallen into his trap." The vast surge of heavenly radiance, hidden light passed straight through the brilliant light. The merciful one urgently spat from his mouth, landing squarely upon the center of his brows that had already been scorched by purple mansion realm true fire. His skull was pierced with a dull sound. A chill filled his heart, and only one thought remained in his mind: self-destruction. He had already taken 2 spiritual flames and a beam of hidden light. each striking where he could not defend. Boundless Waterfire had severed the Great Void and prevented him from connecting to the Buddhist land. If he took another hit from the fire, he would certainly perish completely. Boom! He acted decisively. Almost at the same moment as the hidden light struck, intense golden light exploded. The blue dual-colored flame streaked across several kilometers and landed a moment later upon the Dharma body he had left behind. Li Ziming sighed inwardly. This was what made Buddhist cultivators so troublesome. Unless they were ambushed beforehand, even with strange spirit artifacts like the Upper Minister Vessel and Boundless Waterfire, it was difficult to kill them if they were determined to sever themselves. At most, they would lose a Dharma body. What a pity. Crash. As Huakong's body fell, pink radiance mixed with brilliant light surged into the sky, turning into drifting pink petals that rained down before burning away completely in dazzling flames, leaving not the slightest trace. Li Ziming glanced once at the falling flower rain before withdrawing and returning atop the heavenly gate. When his boots touched the gate, divine ability and mana poured into it, stabilizing the heaven-venerating gate that had begun to waver. Then he brought 2 fingers together and directed the profound fire of the 3 phases guard beneath the gate. Li Ziming did not personally wield divine ability, but instead split his focus to suppress them. These 2 merciful ones were not entirely without the chance to break free. If the 4-armed merciful one had not been so unlucky and fallen so quickly, Li Ziming would have had to return to suppress him as well. Just as the 2 merciful ones finally began to stir, they suddenly felt a heavy weight on their shoulders, and their hearts turned cold. As streams of red-white flames, transforming into gold, poured down upon them. He has already slain senior brother Huakong. Chapter 14:12, Stabilizing the Mountain Eye. A pair of golden hammers has arrived instead. Li Ziming lightly flicked his sleeve and drew 2 golden objects from the sky filled with pink radiance. They were the pair of golden hammers that had belonged to the Buddhist cultivator earlier. Each was nearly half his body in size. Although the pair of hammers was large, their quality was clearly inferior and far less impressive than the cassia he had seized earlier. Li Ziming did not understand Buddhist arts, but he could still judge their quality. He stored them away with a flip of his hand. The pain is killing us. With Li Ziming suppressing them using the heavenly gate and scorching them with a breath of true fire, the 2 merciful ones below had no mind left to care about their senior brothers or sisters. The profound fire of the 3 phases guard was a purple mansion realm spiritual flame, and the heaven-venerating gate had reached perfection. They were locked in suffering. They are already suppressed. There is no rush to kill them, and I cannot let them become too desperate. It would not be ideal if they are forced to abandon their Dharma bodies and commit suicide to return to the Buddhist land, thought Li Ziming. So he deliberately alternated between light and heavy pressure, pretending his divine ability was unstable. Although the flames remained fierce, the suppression of the heavenly gate above their heads gradually weakened, which filled them with unexpected delight. After all, the 2 had a rather low status among the merciful ones. If they returned to the Buddhist land without their Dharma bodies, no one would help them. They would have to seize the bodies of subordinate master monks and refine them themselves, which would be an enormous loss. Although the Boundless Waterfire was formidable, once the Upper Minister Vessel finished releasing the flames, it had already flown into the hands of Taoist Master Tinglin in the distance. It had not arrived before them yet, so there was still time to react. Kill ourselves immediately, better to delay a little. Thus, even though they knew the Taoist masters above them were very likely holding back, they still cooperated by silently pushing against the heavenly gate, waiting for something to change that might give them a chance to escape. Li Ziming raised his brows and looked around. The entire mountain range was already covered in all kinds of radiance. Taoist Master Kueki led the charge, his black cords whipping through the air. He had driven a bronze sword straight into the head of a golden body, pinning it in place. In his other hand, he held a small bell that no one had ever seen before, its light bursting outward as it hovered like a ghost behind another merciful one. The strongest merciful one stepped upon several golden rings, Boundless Waterfire blazing over his body as he blocked the way with an ugly expression. His originally smooth and flawless golden body was now covered with black spots, and several feathers had even grown beneath his arms. I've no idea what art he has been struck by, thought Tinglin. Tinglin's injuries had not yet fully healed, so she mainly restrained the enemy using the Purple Throne Serene Spirit Pavilion. Ningguang had lost the Frosty Absolute Sword and could no longer hold her own alone. Aside from Kueki, the one with the most overwhelming presence was naturally Hufu. The Taoist's robes fluttered as he raised both hands and pressed them down upon a golden body. Above him hung a gray bag-shaped spirit artifact, its mouth wide open. It released waves of supreme yang radiance like raging wind. The brilliance was dazzling and soul-stirring as it poured between the mountains like a blazing waterfall. Beneath this radiance were two merciful ones, suppressed by the supreme yang until they were utterly disoriented. Flames would not rise and wind could not be ridden. Although their lives were not in immediate danger, they clearly seemed to be waiting helplessly for death. Li Ziming had seen this thing before at the Peacock Sea. It was the same item that had forced Yu Guang to retreat, yet his perspective now was far different from before. Seeing it again, he sighed inwardly. This bag is undoubtedly a spirit treasure of the supreme Yang Dao lineage, truly extravagant. Who knows how many transformations such a powerful external treasure possesses? To put it bluntly, this spirit treasure bag alone made it so that Hufu did not need to make a move. It was enough to give a Purple Mansion Realm Devil Cultivator or an Eastern Sea Taoist Master serious trouble. It was likely no worse than Tinglin's life-preserving Purple Throne Serene Spirit Pavilion. No wonder he dared to guard a region at such a young age. Li Ziming watched for a moment when suddenly the upper minister vessel in the sky vanished. The great void beside him echoed softly, and the purple-robed Tinglin silently appeared beside the heavenly gate, smiling faintly at him. Li Ziming paused slightly in surprise and swept out his spiritual sense. He thought to himself, her true body is clearly still on the Purple Throne Serene Spirit Pavilion. It is the migration command token. He understood instantly. The heavenly gate trembled and suddenly lifted slightly, revealing a narrow gap. Radiant light flickered and fierce flames blazed below, but the two golden bodies were overjoyed and rushed outward. Tinglin revealed the upper minister vessel in her hand. Tilting the mouth of the vessel, blue and azure twin flames immediately surged inward. What a brilliant technique, Li Ziming exclaimed inwardly. The clone created by the migration command token naturally possessed no divine abilities, yet compared with ordinary clones, its brilliance lay in the fact that it was almost equivalent to the true body. It even possessed a second range of spiritual sense. Thus, though it had no divine abilities, it could still activate spirit artifacts. Tinglin's cultivation was also profound. Whether through some divine ability, spell art, or clever use of a spirit artifact, this clone had appeared completely silently. Now, as the blazing, boundless waterfire poured in, the two merciful ones inside were stunned for a moment. Li Ziming finally found his opportunity. Transforming into light, he rushed inside and drew the axe in a sweeping strike. Boom! The first merciful one was struck full in the face by boundless waterfire, and then the light of the brilliant Yang King's axe. His golden body was nothing extraordinary. It might withstand ordinary divine abilities or spell arts, but after being scorched by true fire and spiritual flames, how could it endure such a blow? The entire Dharma body shattered piece by piece. Beginning with the hardest skull, it collapsed and broke into fragments of glazed gold and stone that fluttered through the air. Pink radiance surged, but did not rise to the sky, as the phenomenon of his fall was blocked by the heavenly gate. Li Ziming had already turned around, his gaze falling on the surviving merciful one on the other side, whose face was filled with shock. The light of light splitting flickered. Tinglin did not continue attacking. Her clone vanished and moved toward another location. There was a reason. These merciful ones were already like frightened birds. If several of them fell in succession, the one who had avoided the boundless water fire, yet remained entangled, would certainly kill themselves immediately to escape. Destroying their Dharma bodies alone was already a great gain and would cause immense losses to the emptiness Tao. But if one more could be killed, would that not eliminate another future threat? The other three in the sky also acted in perfect coordination. For a moment, radiant light burst everywhere and pink brilliance filled the heavens. When Li Ziming withdrew his divine ability and rose into the air, the true fire below had refined the ground into molten gold and stone. Clearly those phenomena had been suppressed and unable to spread violently. They had been condensed by the true fire and fused into the earth. Now that the pressure was gone, pink light drifted outward. He rode forward on radiant light. Flower petals in the sky mixed with fine snow as they fell in profusion, reaching their most magnificent moment. Snow drifted down as the three heads were forced down like low hills. Their expressions were a mixture of shock, fury, and unwillingness. Their brows were twisted fiercely, and their eyes were wide open as they lay silently in the snow. Truly a great victory. Li Ziming raised his brows as he looked on. At least for Li Ziming, this great victory perfectly served the interests of Moongaze Lake. As for who had truly won or lost in the conflict between the supreme Yang Dao lineage and the northern and southern factions, or which side had suffered more, that was a matter of perspective. Taoist Master Kueki stepped across the sky and arrived. His expression was solemn. Though flower rain filled the heavens, his thoughts seemed heavy and he showed little joy as he said softly, "Tinglin, it seems the prime magnetism here has stabilized." Taoist Master Tinglan stood in purple robes, gazing at Mount Tangdao within the falling snow. The entire mountain was filled with broken walls and collapsed ruins. Shattered statues were scattered everywhere. She sighed. There was no other choice. Since this place has been retaken, it is our duty to hold it. Li Ziming landed near Ningguan and heard Taoist Master Kueki speak softly, fellow Taoist Hengxing. The great void rippled, and a vast red radiance surged forth. A woman in simple ancient robes appeared, holding an umbrella in her arms. Her expression was calm as she said, "Congratulations to you all." Hengxing. This person was none other than Taoist Master Hengxing of the Hengzhu Dao. Chapter 14:13, Stabilizing the Mountain, II. The Hengzhu Dao and the Supreme Yang Dao lineage had grown increasingly distant in recent years. Hengxing's appearance gradually made the situation awkward. Li Ziming said nothing, acting as though he had concealed himself. The cultivators present clearly felt awkward as well and did not know what to say. Fortunately, the umbrella-holding woman said softly, "I could not stop my senior brother from chasing the Grand Taoist Master and that group of Buddhist cultivators. I did not expect to encounter all of you by chance. What a great victory." Her words sounded distant. Even so, Taoist Master Kueki remained very courteous toward her and even somewhat remorseful as he said in a deep voice, "Hengzhu Dao has considered the greater situation and was still willing to come to Mount Tangdao. On behalf of the Ziyuqi Dao lineage, I thank you first." It was rare for someone as proud and stubborn as Kueki to speak so gently, yet Hengxing did not accept the gesture and replied with a smile, "Of course the greater situation comes first and disputes come second. Have we not always acted with the greater situation in mind every year? It is only that my people are not very sensible and care less for such matters. We also do not get along with the Golden Feather sect, so we seldom come north, lest we cause trouble for everyone." Li Ziming felt uneasy. At his side, Ningguan transmitted, "I have already ordered the cultivators of the Azure Pond sect to come. Your Moongaze Lake and the capital Immortal Dao should come as well to handle White River Stream and Mount Tangdao. Guarding here is far more comfortable than guarding the riverbank." Li Ziming nodded secretly and crushed a jade talisman. Suddenly, the heavy snow between heaven and earth stopped. A Taoist with a gourd tied at his waist stepped upon the clouds and returned with a sword in his arms. The eyes beneath his full and sharp brow bones were half closed, and his clothing was neat. "Greetings, Grand Taoist Master." When he appeared, Kueki secretly let out a sigh of relief. The worry and doubt that had lingered in his heart finally dissipated. Everyone bowed. Even the previously distant Taoist Master Hengxing showed greater respect toward a sword immortal like Luing whose conscience was clear and saluted him respectfully. The frosty absolute sword in his arms kept circulating scenes of harmonious balance, emitting waves of white light. It even seemed excited and stirred. Clearly this journey had allowed the spirit sword to display its power. It was obviously quite pleased. However, the sword immortal did not seem particularly attached to it. He lightly tossed the frosty absolute sword into Ningguan's arms and replied, "I thought there would still be figures like Jingjin or Hellion Fan. I did not expect the north to be filled with such filth." His aura had no signs of decline. After all, he cultivated one of the 3 shamanic Daos. Li Ziming could not see any sign that his lifespan was nearing its end. He looked just like a middle-aged man at the height of his vigor. Ningguan hurriedly received it while Hufu laughed. "Taoist Master, with the frosty absolute sword in your hands, a single sword strike can rival those from 400 years ago." Luing stepped forward and casually declined the compliment. "That is a joke. If you go further back, there are true monarchs. How could it be 400 years? I would not even dare claim 40. Compared with Kueki, who led the group, the Grand Taoist Master seemed closer to the junior Hufu. Everyone else remained respectful, and only Hufu dared to jokingly praise him so highly. Even though he declined the praise, 3 heads lay on the ground. The power of that single sword was evident to all, excluding Shangyuan, saying that this sword could rival those from 400 years ago was not an exaggeration. Luing's return should have been a moment of celebration, yet Hengxing clasped her hands and said quietly, "Senior, I'll take my leave." Luing did not stop her and simply allowed her to transform into light and depart. Standing with his hands behind his back, Kueki seemed hesitant to speak and somewhat frustrated as he listened to the sword immortal say, "Let us all return to Huyi." The sword immortal led everyone back, naturally heading toward Huyi. Li Ziming himself also had a spirit embryo to refine, but it would not be proper to take his leave halfway. Thus they traveled all the way to the snowfall courtyard on Huyi Mountain, where the scene remained the same with thick white snow and cultivators busily moving about. Then they heard the Taoist master ahead click his tongue. Whoosh! A gray wind descended from the sky and swept the snow clean from the entire mountain, revealing grayish-brown brick ground. even the cultivators across Th. E Mountain were swept away down the slopes, leaving behind only empty temples with faint smoke drifting upward. The sword immortal said, "Sit." Everyone sat down in order. Luing adjusted his sleeves and restrained the sharp aura around him before saying softly, "This matter with the northern Buddhists is only the beginning, not the conclusion. The reason I chose not to slay Zhelu, but instead went to slay Pai Jia was precisely because of that. Zhelu is the abbot of the emptiness Tao. Whether it is the Dharma Master or Majestic Light, if they wish to drive him to act, he must remain alive and continue to contribute. He is not easy to kill. Even if it succeeded, it would merely repeat the story of the great Desire Tao from years past, yet I do not have a true monarch standing behind me. Moreover, Pai Jia came from the great Desire Tao to involve himself and claim a share of the spoils. It would not be strange if he loses after gambling on it." He accepted the tea Kueki handed him and said calmly, "They wanted to test me. Since I would have to appear sooner or later, acting early at least limits the losses." Taoist Master Kueki thanked him respectfully and listened as the Grand Taoist Master continued. "The matter with Hengzhu Dao was stirred up by the Golden Feather sect, was it not?" Master, only Kueki dared to take responsibility and speak, his voice deep. "Yes, the Azure Pond sect made certain arrangements with the Golden Feather sect years ago, benefits tied to matters possibly involving a true monarch. We dared not interfere, nor could we ruin the Golden Feather sect's position while it wavered between sides. The Supreme Yang and the Golden One Dao's quietly supporting each other has been a long-standing matter." The Sword Immortal smiled and replied, "If Yank were still alive, you and Kiishui alike would all receive a thorough scolding. He would ride out with his divine abilities and force Mirongzia to cough up real blood." Kueki lowered his head as he acknowledged those words. Though he felt some guilt, there was clearly little regret. He said, "The Sword Gate has always upheld the ancestral laws and the lessons of the past remain clear. It would be another matter if nothing had been promised, but since the Azure Pond sect agreed, and the fact that many people had already benefited by the time I emerged from seclusion, forcing him out afterward would break the Azure Pond sect's oath. The Golden Feather sect would suffer severe losses, while the Buddhist cultivators would walk away with their bowls filled. The North would rejoice. Would that not be even more foolish? Now we only hope for a chance to sit down and discuss matters and resolve the misunderstandings." These words made Luing laugh. The Sword Immortal had been famous for his fiery temper in his youth, yet now he appeared calm as he stood with his back to everyone. He said, "Whether the three profundities in the four Taos or the imperial descendants of the immortal families, they will ultimately part ways. The Green Pine Supreme Yang Dao lineage will be no exception. Those who follow different paths cannot work together, so there is no need to force it. 300 years from now, perhaps the great Ziyukui temple will no longer even be heard of." His voice rang clearly within the empty temple halls. "I have failed in attempting the Purple Mansion threshold in my cultivation, and my divine abilities are insufficient. I have no hope of attaining fruition. In the remaining 2 or 3 years of my life, I will devote myself to the sword and end my days. When the time approaches, I will go to Luoxia to meet Zuyang and walk the final stretch of my sword Dao. I will return to the old dispute of art and sword intent and see his sword once more." The Sword Immortal finished with a faint smile. "Perhaps my sword light would not even match today's strike without the frosty absolute sword. The Supreme Yang Dao lineage will be entrusted to all of you." Everyone rose from their seats and bowed. They watched as he drifted upward and transformed into faint dark mist before disappearing. The snow upon Hui Mountain began to fall again, drifting through the air. Chapter 14:14, Northward Advance I. The Sword Immortal departed in a flash of light, leaving everyone standing in the mountains as Kueki's voice rang out, subdued. "Farewell, Master." Everyone bowed together and said respectfully, "Farewell, Grand Taoist Master." Green Pine Supreme Yang. Li Ziming sighed inwardly. Though he was not deeply familiar with the Supreme Yang Dao lineage, the difference in strength was obvious at a glance. Now that Luing had departed, who else could display such sword immortal majesty? The group sat down again. Taoist Master Hufu appeared somewhat sorrowful. Holding his cup, he took out spirit tea from his storage pouch and began preparing it with hot water. Kueki said in a deep voice, "Today we slew 30. And merciful ones, forcing 6 to death. It can be called a great victory. We have suppressed the ferocity of the Buddhist cultivators and cut off the hand the great Desire Tao was extending toward us. We have also secured our position at Mount Tangdao, so our strength can now be focused in one direction." Tinglin said softly, "The emptiness Tao was already weak to begin with. Back then, that Dharma master severed the attachment of self in a single breath and refused even a trace of true spirit. There has been no sign of him ever since. At the same time, the two Mahas of the Abhidharma Treasury Temple sect also perished, and they nearly lost the Buddhist land entirely. If the Maha of the great Mahayana Dharma realm had not intervened, the emptiness Tao would have been no different from the wrathful Tao. Unfortunately, the other forms all supported each other and mixed in their own people, pushing the matter north to Jiangbei. What a pity. As Li Ziming listened to their conversation, Ningguan spoke up to remind them, prime magnetism is surging on Mount Tangdao. A formation should be established. First, it can gather and restrain the prime magnetism on the mountain. Second, it can defend against the Buddhist cultivators. This mountain seals the southern passage. It connects west to the Golden Feather sect and east to Chengyan Gate, so the rear will remain secure. Ningguan was a formation prodigy of the Azure Pond sect. Tinglin also possessed a formation inheritance, and Kueki himself had considerable knowledge of formations. This was something they should have long agreed upon. Kueki nodded. That makes sense. There is no need for many formations. One temporary main formation with 10 or 20 subsidiary formations will be enough to cover the entire mountain. There is only one issue. He raised his brows, his expression turning serious as he said with some frustration, there is no need to construct a specialized formation for this mountain. Otherwise, we would be fussing over it endlessly, and it would take 3 to 5 years to finish. We only need to establish several formation nodes and deploy the Purple Mansion Realm formation, plates that my Ziyuqi Dao currently possesses. The strength of 3 people will be entirely sufficient, but judging by the spirit vein of Mount Tangdao, Origin Thunder is the most suitable. Other Dao lineages are manageable, but the 3 Thunder Daos traces upward to the Northern Palace and belongs to Daoxuan. We know nothing about it. Where can we find a proper Origin Thunder Dao lineage nowadays? Tinglin replied, since it belongs to the Daoxuan lineage, we should ask around in the Northern Sea. The Thunder Dao may not be prominent, but the Zai family and Beihuan sect still remain. Besides, perhaps we could also inquire at Mount Changhui or the True Unity Dao. Inquiring at Mount Changhui in Wu State went without saying, but True Unity Dao was the sect established at Jade Cliff Green by Nian Yi of the Yue cultivating sect after inheriting the Dao lineage of true monarch Shangyuan. Kueki's expression grew troubled as he reminded them, I think we can ask, but we should not place too much hope on it. We should still prepare to use my Ziyuqi's Black Wave Sea Piercing Spirit formation. It will not be easy to borrow help this time. The other two fell silent. After a moment, Tinglin shook her head and added, there is also Grace Covenant Gate. Zhugong has disappeared after being severely injured, and the people below are fighting chaotically. I sent orders to stop them, but things are still in a complete mess and impossible to sort out. When Zhugong was mentioned, Kueki looked somewhat helpless and replied, she left the moment she turned away. She clearly does not trust me. Try using whatever wondrous divine ability you have to inquire and call her back. Whether it is Zheajing's alchemy art or our Dao collection, it would still be better than her struggling alone in the Eastern Sea. With the matter settled, Tinglin bowed and said, Kyuhu and I will head into the mountains first. We will survey the terrain and mountain ranges there and guard against anyone with ill intentions tampering with things in secret. Very well, Kueki allowed the two to leave. The wind and snow atop the mountain gradually intensified. After waiting for some time, Li Ziming finally had a chance to speak and sighed, I have been entangled in many matters recently. I originally wanted to ask about something. Kueki naturally knew what he was referring to and waved his hand. You are talking about the matter of the spirit embryo. I have already considered it. I also saw your divine technique of pavilion view, refining within fire. At first glance, it seems like something from the Tongxuan Dao. Artifact forging often requires spirit items and nourishment from cultivated mana to quickly bring the artifact into form. We rarely use such techniques in the artifact forging methods of our supreme Yang Dao lineage, nor do we favor rituals. Instead, we rely on internal refinement and nourishment through divine abilities. Spirit embryos in the supreme Shaman Dao are often refined personally using divine abilities. Changxi's Dao lineage truly belongs to the Tongxuan Dao. Li Ziming simply bowed and said, it was my oversight. Kueki shook his head and replied, that is not a problem. I know this spirit embryo you are refining is for Dilution Sanglin of the Southern Shun Raksha. I do not know which of his juniors intends to use it, but I do remember that there is a Taoist master within Lacquer Marsh who cultivates the supreme Shaman Dao. He could refine it for you. These words from Taoist Master Kueki were clearly offered with great sincerity. Li Ziming was delighted and was about to thank him when the Taoist master smiled faintly and said, do not thank me yet. I wish to discuss something with you on this matter. Buddhist cultivators of the north have not given up their intentions. This Taoist master of Lacquer Marsh has rare abilities, but he is unwilling to get involved, so it is difficult to persuade him to help. When he comes to the lake, we can arrange for him to visit Mount Wu. If the conversation goes well, we can try asking him. It would be best if he can be persuaded. After all, this is not the affair of a single family. Li Ziming nodded in realization and thought to himself, they think that since my family occupied Mount Wu early on, perhaps we obtained some fine shamanic tools or inheritances there that could persuade this Taoist master. He immediately agreed to everything and said with a sigh, when my family occupied Mount Wu, it was already a ruin. The various Purple Mansion realm cultivators had already cleared everything out. I fear there is nothing of interest left to see. After exchanging a few more courtesies, Qiuqi served tea to see him off. Once Li Ziming departed in a flash of light, Qiuqi turned to Taoist master Hufu, who said, the Li family is a great enemy of the Buddhist cultivators. At this moment, they fear the southward advance of the Buddhist cultivators even more than we do. Qiuqi nodded and replied, exactly. That is why we brought him in early. Whether it is the ruler of manifested mountains and rivers or the Great Formation, everything was arranged with him in mind, giving him support and sharing the pressure from the Buddhist cultivators. It is not easy to have a Purple Mansion realm cultivator who truly stands on the same side as us. We cannot let him fall so easily. As for the matter of Li Xiaowei, we will adapt as the situation requires. Setting that matter aside and seeing that Li Ziming had left, there were finally things he could speak of. A trace of resentment and chill appeared on his face as he growled. In the end, the grotto heaven never descended. When the Lord acted in past years, even the Eastern Fire Grotto heaven could not withstand it. And now, Miffin was not even opened. Qiuqi's voice grew sharper as he said coldly, did we ever dare hope for Wanglin heaven? What kind of place is that Miffin? A secret realm recorded in the 72 Profound Insight book. Even the mountain was granted by Wei. The master of Miffin back then was surnamed Lei. And now you say the book has vanished. You say the secret realm cannot open. This is going too far. Cold light flashed repeatedly in his eyes as he burst out in anger. So they sent the command token over early, deliberately opened the gate, and while stabilizing the grotto heaven they tossed down 3 or 5 swords and more than a dozen Dharma artifacts like alms before immediately sending people away. The treasure resonance gourd left no trace. Zhengchen Yir is in the Lord's Kihai. Even the clues to the stargazing bronze sparrow have vanished. After searching the whole place, there was not even a single hidden blossom spirit herb. Good, very good. Their intent to disgust our supreme Yang Dao lineage could not be more obvious. Hufu had clearly also been suppressing the entire time. When the matter was raised, his expression darkened as he said coldly, exactly. NUI heaven contained metallic essence, so such chaos could be understood, but they were already tampering even back during the Eastern Fire incident. The clarifying transformation primordial intercalation method disappeared, and the Supreme Yang Glazed Tower was removed long ago. They only left behind a ceremonial artifact. If Senior Yuanxiu had not possessed such profound cultivation, we probably would not have obtained the Hui River map from Anhui heaven either. And earlier they claimed Gu killed someone from the Tang family. Could he possibly have done that? It was all just for the Sunseeker ring. In earlier years there were a few grand Taoist masters who kept things within limits. Now they are completely unrestrained. The anger they had long suppressed was finally vented, yet reality still had to be faced. Qiuqi remained silent while Hufu turned aside and sipped his tea as he thought, and what of it? Hufu looked at the empty courtyard and said softly, Martial uncle, the courtyard is quite quiet now. Great Ziyuqi Temple had a tradition of compulsory labor. Upholding reverence for nature and care for common livelihood, every cultivator had to perform this arduous duty. Every few years they would return to carry out such labor, meant to demonstrate the sect's retreat from worldly affairs and its purity from mortal concerns. After Qiuqi had taken charge of the sect, he had changed the arrangement. Emphasizing the rules clearly, he had gathered the Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators who were required to perform this labor every few years and had them harvest tea and farm atop the mountain, making the effort grand in scale. Others might not understand, but Hufu knew his martial uncle's intention. He merely wanted the grand Taoist master to see clearly how the people below were worn down by this rule in everyday practice in the hopes that it might eventually be changed. Now the sword immortal had swept everything aside with a sleeve and departed. It undoubtedly created an opportunity to change the ancestral rule. Qiuqi replied, it should have been changed long ago. It only wastes cultivation time. You and I both went through it. Farming is just farming. Those who can comprehend the Tao from farming will comprehend it even without farming. Those who cannot comprehend it will gain nothing even if you make them farm all over Hui. Hufu sipped his tea and finally dared to speak, probing cautiously. Martial uncle's intentions may not please the grand Taoist master, but he can still understand them. However, I have not returned these past few days. As for the Lingu family. Qiuqi remained silent for a long time before finally saying, it is not convenient to speak of it. Go ask in the Northern Sea. Chapter 14:15, Northward Advance, II. Jiangbei. Li Ziming came from the riverbank and headed northward. After passing White Yi Stream, he saw the region around White River Stream orderly and clearly divided into 4 territories. Li Jiangxia appeared riding heavenly light and came forward to greet him. At his side was Guan Gongxiao in Taoist robes, staying half a step behind him in polite deference. On the other side, Ding Weizeng held a weapon. He clearly did not fit well with capital Immortal Dao, and his expression was somewhat stiff, only changing when he saw Li Ziming. Taoist Master, the 3 regions of Miffin have been cleared. The cultivators were dispersed, and several families have already submitted. Only the Wang family remains gathered north of Brahma Cloud, relying on Chengyun Gate. No one has been sent there yet. With the Li family's current strength, it would be a real problem if Li Jiangxia could not swiftly pacify the White River Stream region. Judging by the situation before him, the capital Immortal Dao had likely not dared occupy even a single piece of land and had yielded everything. Li Ziming descended along the slope while listening to Li Jiangxia. The Taoist masters and the Buddhist cultivators took action and carried off quite a few people. Several local forces are extremely alarmed. As for the remnants of Locust Soul Hall, they are almost nowhere to be seen. Only a few still survive under Xiao Yuan, and they have all gathered in the mountains. This junior feared that some among them might be close friends of Xiao Yuan, so we have not acted too harshly. We only sent a few people to communicate and question them. We should have everything clarified within 2 or 3 days. Li Ziming listened casually and asked, "How is Wang Quan?" Li Jiangxia lowered his gaze and hurriedly replied, "He and Wang Xiaoxiao were taken to Chengyun Gate and have not yet returned, which is why they did not come. Wang Qiu sent a letter. He is clearly in a difficult position, though the contents are still polite." He presented the letter with both hands. Li Ziming glanced at it but did not take it to read. Since that person had already entered another sect, he had no intention of stirring the matter further. He only replied, "Send him a reply. There is no need to write again in the future." Li Jiangxia immediately put the letter away. "Yes." Meanwhile, Guan Gongxiao, standing to the side, said respectfully, "Taoist Master, the cultivators of the capital Immortal Dao are all present and await your command." Guan Gongxiao's emotions were clearly complicated. He was even somewhat at a loss, but Li Ziming paid no mind and said calmly, "We have already pacified Mount Tangdao. The Buddhist cultivators will not let this pass easily. We will need to hold the line for some time. If this mountain falls, we will retreat to the riverbank. The various families have Purple Mansion realm protection, so their final outcome is uncertain. But if your Taoist master is absent, the capital Immortal Dao will certainly collapse." Guan Gongxiao broke into a sweat and bowed. "The capital Immortal Dao will devote itself completely, even unto death." Li Ziming waved his hand for him to withdraw. The gate master of the capital Immortal Dao rode the wind away, and only then did Li Jiangxia speak in a lower voice, "Taoist master, we also found 2 or 3 Dharma artifacts within the territory, though they have already fallen into the hands of rogue cultivators and family cultivators. These people have not left and are all still in the mountains. Once our people arrived, they immediately came to pay respects. There are also still quite a few cultivation methods. Most are still being traced to determine their origins, though we currently have only one technique worth examining." Li Ziming acknowledged, "That is fairly wise." Li Jiangxia then added, "My thought was that we should not pursue the matter of these 1 or 2 Dharma artifacts, so as to demonstrate the fairness of our family." It was unclear whether this had already been reported to Li Jianglong on the same island. Judging from Li Jiangxia's character, he likely wanted Li Ziming to make the decision before giving a reply. Li Ziming signaled for him to handle it himself and asked, "Where are Li Quantao's people, and the cultivators of that Miffin Dao lineage who were released into Jiangbei?" Li Jiangxia replied respectfully, "Li Quantao and his son were urgently recalled to the Azure Pond sect. There has been no news since. Fei Tonglu and Fei Tongkai have disappeared, perhaps taken away by someone along the way. As for the few who returned to Jiangbei and walked into the trap, most were killed by local family cultivators. We have located 2 of them and have already brought them here." His expression turned somewhat strange as he added, "It is said that those 2 are no longer as they once were." Li Ziming raised his brows and saw the old Buzhai escorting a man and a woman forward. Their attire did not resemble that of Jiangbei cultivators. The man glared with furious eyes, while the woman's face was also full of indignation. It is clear at a glance that they have been influenced by a true monarch. They must have encountered the true monarch long ago. No wonder no one dared deal with them. After everything that had happened in the north, Li Ziming had gained considerable experience. True monarchs were especially terrifying to those at the embryonic breathing realm and the Qi cultivation realm because of their mysterious ability to influence the mind. However, once cultivators reached the Foundation Establishment realm or the Purple Mansion realm, it was still frightening, but at least they would not lose their minds for no reason. The moment the ceiling restriction on these two was removed, the man immediately burst into curses and shouted, "Lord Lin is the reincarnation of the true monarch of Miffin Dao lineage. How dare you? All the families in this territory are protected under that Dao lineage, yet you dare cross the river and invade. Shameless, completely shameless." No one present paid him any attention. Li Jiangxia presented a jade slip with both hands. Li Ziming swept it with his spiritual sense and saw 5 words written on it. Song of the Feathered Guest. This was precisely Song of the Feathered Guest from the Miffin Dao lineage. He had obtained only half of it back then from Wenhu. Now this version was complete from beginning to end without the slightest omission. The Lord truly left behind abundant legacies. This defensive technique Song of the Feathered Guest was at least 5th grade and unquestionably a valuable gain. This was the benefit of occupying the territory. Some scattered items could not be taken away by others, though there was little more to be found. The man continued shouting curses, looking utterly steadfast and unyielding. Li Ziming glanced briefly and saw that the man's innate ability was actually not bad. He was already at the 9th stage of the Qi cultivation realm, only a step away from Foundation Establishment realm. Before Li Ziming could react, the man shouted, "And you, Li Zheajing, you disgrace the title of Taoist Master." He did not know Li Ziming's true name and continued shouting his Dao title, but the moment the words left his mouth, everyone nearby turned pale. Li Jiangxia was shocked and furious while Buzhai nearly lost his soul. Before the man could finish the word honor, his entire body turned bright white like a torn piece of cloth and exploded into a burst of heavenly light. Boom! The man was reduced to ashes on the spot. The woman's face turned pale green, but before she could even open her mouth, her body dissolved from head to toe into smoke. She followed the man in death like tragic lovers. Everyone present was terrified and knelt in apology. Li Ziming did not care much as he put away Song of the Feathered Guest. The Taoist masters had already swept through and taken anything of value. The fact that these two had remained until now showed how little worth they had. Their hatred for his family was intense and their fate had long been sealed. Dying by his hand was almost a mercy. Search carefully for the cultivation methods scattered in this territory. I will go north for a while. He waved everyone away and stepped onto light, striding through the air until he reached Mount Tangdao. The entire mountain was covered in heavy snow. Most of the ruined walls had already been pushed down, revealing bare slopes while cultivators moved about everywhere. As he looked around, there were not many Foundation Establishment realm cultivators in Azure Pond sect robes. Most were the purple-robed members of Purple Smoke Gate, many of whom he had seen when visiting the sect years ago. The Azure Pond sect suffered heavy losses back then. Clearly, it has not yet recovered. He swept his gaze across the scene and showed slight surprise before descending through the air and appearing beside a woman in red. Minggong has come out of seclusion. This woman was Li Minggong, who now possessed late Foundation Establishment cultivation. Wearing a red dress and stepping upon flames, she appeared to be regulating fire through a spell. Upon seeing Li Ziming, she hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, "Greetings, Taoist Master." Li Ziming raised his brows. Seeing how solid her cultivation was and how naturally her aura manifested, it was clear she had gained considerable benefits. He said, "Good, that spirit pill was not wasted." Li Minggong quickly bowed deeply and replied, "I had just come out of seclusion when I encountered 2 Taoist masters passing over the lake. They instructed our Foundation Establishment realm cultivators to bring people over, but the forces were still in Jiangbei. Since my cultivation is the highest, I rode fire ahead and brought several people first." Li Ziming nodded and offered a brief word of praise before departing in a flash of light. He then saw Tinglin riding a purple jade spirit pavilion suspended in the air. It was unclear whether that figure was her true body, but she stepped upon purple qi while the upper minister vessel hung at her waist, appearing plain and unadorned. Li Ziming had not come to see her without reason. The pressure from the northern Buddhist cultivators was growing heavier, and he was secretly tense. His thoughts had already turned toward the technique Radiance under heaven in her possession. Whether he could cross the Purple Mansion threshold was still uncertain, but the remaining 2 divine abilities he needed would certainly be a body divine ability and a fate divine ability. The only question was which to cultivate first. If Jiangbei can no longer be held one day and the Buddhist cultivators march south, survival will become the only priority. If I cannot even guarantee my own life, how could I possibly guarantee the lives of the children at home? After all, his close combat ability was already quite formidable. Once he possessed a fate divine ability, both his own ability to survive and the chances of his family's younger generation would improve dramatically. With the northern Buddhist cultivators watching like tigers eyeing prey, Li Ziming had no choice but to prepare for the worst. As for Tinglin's suggestion that he cultivate a second divine ability before the fate divine ability, Li Ziming's earlier probing made him suspect it was related to matters of mental influence. However, he already had a layer of protection with a talisman seed in his body. When she saw Li Ziming, Tinglin smiled and said, "Zheajing's cultivation has advanced greatly." Li Ziming smiled modestly and asked, "It has been a long time since we last met, fellow Taoist. How are your injuries?" "It will still take some days to recover." Tinglin looked somewhat dispirited as she said softly, "I had originally cultivated an immortal foundation within my Kihai. After what happened, I must refine it again. That is not the main problem. The Dharma body of my purple essence Tao is difficult to nurture, and losing it damages one's vital qi severely. If you require any pills, feel free to ask me." Li Ziming offered a few words of comfort and spoke politely, though he appeared somewhat troubled. Tinglin noticed and asked, "What is the matter?" He replied with concern, "I had originally planned to cultivate another divine ability, but I've grown worried after hearing your words. The Buddhist cultivators in the north will eventually fight a major battle. My body divine ability now has only a single strand of qi remaining. If I am injured and must start cultivating that divine ability again from the beginning, it will be troublesome." Li Ziming's concern was reasonable, and Tinglin nodded. He continued, "It reminded me of your gate's radiance. Under heaven, how does it gather qi? If it is more convenient than my current method, that would be ideal." Tinglin's expression turned somewhat complicated as she answered softly, "It is indeed much more convenient. Our purple smoke gate still preserves the bright clarity vital qi required for this Tao, and it is not difficult to collect. Few people in the sect cultivate it. I could pass it to you." Li Ziming quickly waved his hand and replied, "I cannot accept such a gift without merit. Since it is a purple mansion realm technique, it cannot be obtained for nothing, especially a fate divine ability that continues a Tao lineage." Seeing her hesitation, Li Ziming said gently, "I have only one doubt. Earlier you advised me to first cultivate the body divine ability before practicing this. What was the reason?" Tinglin replied, "It is not an absolute restriction. This fate divine ability is somewhat strange. I hoped you would cultivate more divine abilities first and grow older. When you can handle these mysteries more easily, cultivating it will be better. Secondly, when I met the Grand Taoist Master years ago, I asked him about this matter. His cultivation is extremely profound, and he explained that radiance under heaven should come at the end of the Bright Yang methods. It stands at the peak of the Bright Yang Tao and serves as the final divine ability for seeking fruition attainment. No matter which other stage it is cultivated in, it does not benefit the Golden Core realm as much as completing radiance under heaven." Li Ziming immediately felt delighted. He had no such lofty ambitions. As long as it did not obstruct his cultivation or affect his next divine ability, he had nothing to fear. "No matter what, radiance under heaven will never be the last divine ability I cultivate. The 3 abilities I need are already fixed. This is only meant to remind Zhao Wei. Whether he attempts the breakthrough and how the matter of the Wei's emperor is handled will depend entirely on him." He laughed and shook his head. "I do not possess such lofty ambitions. In all of Jiangnan, very few even aim for the Golden Core realm. I only wish to preserve my life and protect my family." Chapter 14:16, Rectification I. Cold wind rushed toward them as Ningguan arrived riding the snow. She landed nearby and looked slightly surprised when she saw Li Ziming, giving him a small nod in greeting. Tinglin glanced at her a moment longer, then came back to herself and said softly, "Since Zheajing has already made the decision, it would not be proper for me to say much more." Our Purple Smoke Gate was once called Purple Smoke Temple. It was merely a small temple in this region. We possessed a bit of Tao lineage and were nominally attached to Wanglin Upper Sect as a subordinate temple. In those days, the Origin Mansion governed the land. Jiangnan saw little turmoil, and the cultivators of our temple often descended the mountain to travel. Later, our ancestor Taixu returned after completing his studies and proclaimed his divine ability to heaven and earth. Only then was Purple Smoke Gate established as a legitimate lineage of the Supreme Yang. The Tao of radiance under heaven that our gate possesses is not a remnant of the Supreme Yang inheritance. Its origin is far more ancient. The technique itself is written as radiance under heaven, not bright and clear heart. It was originally left behind by an ancient Li family cultivator who fled south in times of calamity. Li Ziming listened carefully as she continued. The spiritual qi required must be gathered day by day from the first bright wisp of morning radiance. When harvesting the qi, various spirit items are used to refine it, allowing it to be produced from within. Thus, it differs from the arts commonly used in Jiangnan, since it uses the white penetrating method. It is suitable for all 4 seasons, and the collection time is not long. Our gate currently has 3 copies prepared. Even if we added a few more, it would not take long. As for what Purple Smoke Gate wants. Tinglin sighed softly before saying, the situation today is difficult to speak of. Although Purple Smoke Gate still holds this technique, it is tied to a rebellion from years past. No one cultivates it anymore, and leaving it has become a taboo. It would be better to exchange it for another Purple Mansion Realm technique. That would at least provide another path. Li Ziming nodded inwardly. The 2 sides were allies and would have to face the northern situation together. Naturally, neither side would complicate matters. This was undoubtedly the most suitable arrangement. He hesitated slightly. In truth, his family did not have many techniques they could exchange with Tinglin. Even though they were allies, the Radiant Essence scripture was not suitable to trade away. Of the publicly known Purple Mansion Realm techniques they possessed, there was only the aged courtly path. Scripture, the scripture of the body-guarding Tiger Pass, the heavenly lustrous Gold Sutra, and the profound light mountain chasing scripture. The scripture of the body-guarding Tiger Pass belongs to the Kui family. The Golden Tang Gate techniques have already been shared with the Azure Pond sect and Ziyukui Dao Gate. Purple Smoke Gate likely does not lack them either. Sure enough, Tinglin said softly, the aged courtly path scripture belongs to the Jade True lineage. I heard that it ended up on the lake after the Jiang family fell, while the Yu family of those days entered Yuanwu Peak. I once heard some seniors mention it in passing conversation. At the time it was already said that the Qi had long been cut off, leaving only empty size. Now the Jade True nature is shining brightly once more. I have heard that your esteemed family can already cultivate this path, and has even devised a method to gather its Qi. Li Ziming smiled and replied, this is not difficult. It is just that dust of the court is scarce. Although my family has used many methods to assist the process, the nearest batch will still take more than 2 years. If fellow Taoist gives me a portion of bright clarity vital Qi, then when that portion of dust of the court is produced 2 years from now, it will be sent to Purple Smoke Gate. Tinglin naturally knew that dust of the court was rare. In fact, it was worth far more than bright clarity vital Qi. The Li family did not possess much of it either. Otherwise Li Kuai, who cultivated at Purple Smoke Gate, would have long ago practiced the aged courtly path scripture, who would not cultivate a complete Purple Mansion Realm Dao lineage if it was available. Naturally, she would not give only a single portion. She simply nodded, taking it as the matter being settled. Ningguan listened quietly from beginning to end. As a cultivator of the Azure Pond sect, she naturally knew that the Azure Pond sect had a hand in the destruction of the Jiang family. Although disciples of the Azure Pond sect could not cultivate this technique, the Dao collection certainly held a portion of it in secret. She simply did not wish to spoil another's arrangement. Once the exchange was agreed upon, Tinglin rode the wind away to retrieve it. Li Ziming had already read the aged courtly path scripture, so he did not need to gather spiritual qi and could simply recite it silently. He quickly took the opportunity to voice the doubt in his heart. I saw that Tinglin spoke of it with great restraint. That rebellion must have been a major matter. Ningguan seemed somewhat regretful as she replied, you should not blame her. The matter is extremely complicated and difficult to speak of. I know a few vague details at least, so I can explain a little. The path of radiance under heaven was transmitted by Purple Gale Peak. At that time, Purple Gale Peak was at the height of its prosperity. It had even had a disciple in its history who achieved the rank of Taoist Master with the Tao title Tinqian. When Tinqian achieved the rank of Taoist Master, his master Taoist Master Yuanjing was in seclusion while guarding the sect. The 2 Taoist masters Zaipai and Zimu had also gone out for personal affairs. One fled to the Eastern Sea, while the other disappeared without even a trace. For a time, he ended up in charge. Ningguan found it difficult to continue and said quietly, at that time Purple Gale Peak faintly showed the momentum of becoming the foremost peak. Taoist Master Tinqian was powerful himself, and he even had a disciple beneath him who was also an exceptional genius. Yet after he achieved his divine ability, he indulged in his nature and acted against all order, forcing her and several disciples to dual cultivate with him. Astonishingly, not a single person in the entire Purple Smoke Gate spoke a word. Ningguan's voice was almost inaudible now. She turned her head and sighed before continuing. When Taoist Master Yuanjing emerged from seclusion, he first heard that a new Taoist master had appeared and was delighted, yet he was immediately shocked speechless. When he summoned people to question them, they all said that it had been of their own will, each weeping uncontrollably. But a fate divine ability was involved, so who could know the truth within? They borrowed Ziyukui Dao Gate's spirit artifact to examine the matter, yet the fate divine ability proved somewhat sinister, entangling matters further and revealing even more scandals. After those scandals circulated for a time, the rest was no longer accessible to outsiders. It was only heard that Tinkian was executed. The woman killed herself in fury, and Taoist master Yuanjing fell into despair. Later he perished in the west, and the matter faded into silence. Li Ziming was shaken by what he heard, his brows tightly furrowed. Aside from the muddle-headed Kai Wei in his later years, the moral standards of the supreme Yang Dao lineage were undoubtedly higher than those overseas. The lower ranks were another matter, but at the very least, appearances had to be maintained. The earlier the era, the stricter it had been, yet this matter was truly difficult to speak of. Taoist master Chengyan of Chengxiao Gate did something even more excessive, yet it only became a passing joke to others. If a Purple Mansion realm Taoist master truly wished to pursue dual cultivation, there would be no need for such extremes. The matter was probably being understated. That female cultivator was an important direct descendant of the Can and One families. That rebellion at Purple Smoke Gate must have caused a break in their lineage. It also directly affected 2 Purple Mansion realm figures and a Purple Mansion realm seed. Otherwise, the Grand Taoist Master would not have needed to travel to the lands of Qi to take Tinglin, an outsider who joined halfway, as a disciple. The two fell into a tacit silence. After a long while, Tinglin returned riding purple essence. She took a jade slip and a jade bottle from her sleeve and handed them to Li Ziming, her expression much calmer.
Please.
Li Ziming accepted them calmly. With a sweep of spiritual sense, he saw the title within. Sovereign Insight, Illuminating Heart Scripture. This technique was indeed 4th grade, the same level as the aged courtly path scripture. Li Ziming put it away first and expressed his thanks. The 2 Taoist masters then began discussing matters in the mountains. As Ningguan said, the emptiness Tao has retreated, but they will certainly return. The great desire Tao has been struck painfully and may not be able to send strong figures for a time. Yet the factions behind the emptiness Tao have tested our strength and will not give up. In the end, they will come again. However, their withdrawal has left the north completely empty. The temples have no one left. Whether monks or master monks, not a single one remains. Only the common people are slowly moving north across the land. These people are difficult to deal with. We certainly cannot send people to occupy those lands. Even if we did, it would only scatter our strength. If we ignore it, there are plenty of devil cultivators in the north, and countless people will likely die. But if we bring them into Jiangbei... Ningguan seemed worried as she replied, "These people all revere the Buddhist Tao. They are not even afraid of taking their own lives. Bringing them here would likely create trouble and only increase bloodshed." Li Ziming understood her concern. White River Stream was already short of people, so he asked, "Could your fate divine ability perhaps save them?" Both women shook their heads at the same time, and Ningguan replied, "This has nothing to do with mystical influence. They sincerely believe that suffering in this life leads to happiness in the next. They believe falling into the devil Tao will certainly send them to hell. They are not under any mystical control."
Chapter 14:17, Rectification II.
Li Ziming realized that this was truly the most troublesome situation. When comparing the immortal Tao and the Buddhist Tao, the former was clearly inferior when it came to winning the hearts of the people. He sighed inwardly and only replied, "Then we can only send 10 or 20 people over to escort them into the territory of Lotus Temple. If hundreds or even thousands are slaughtered beneath the mountains, it would not look good either."
That is indeed a method.
It was undoubtedly somewhat absurd. They had driven back the northern forces, yet still had to send people over. Even if it was to Lotus Temple of the virtuous Tao, it remained an uncomfortable matter. Tinglin's expression was not pleasant either, but with the situation as it was, she could only lower her head and say, "After all, Lotus Temple has not made any excessive moves so far, and Jinlian's stance remains ambiguous. At a time like this, we should stabilize that Tao lineage and avoid letting them interfere in these matters." The woman took out a jade talisman from her sleeve, placed it in his hand, and reminded him, "It is impossible to predict how the north may change. If something urgent occurs, I will notify you with this talisman. At that time, please come north as quickly as possible to assist in settling the matter." Li Ziming's divine abilities and spirit artifacts may not allow him to confront a Maha directly, but when it came to suppressing merciful ones, he could step forward without hesitation. His experience was extensive, and the supreme Yang Dao lineage clearly could not do without him. Yet Li Ziming naturally hoped for more time to prepare, so he hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "I happen to have 1 or 2 spell arts on the verge of completion. Since the 2 of you are guarding this mountain, I will return and enter seclusion." After all, this was the territory of the supreme Yang Dao lineage, so Li Ziming did not say much more. With his objective achieved and the matter agreed upon, he rode a streak of light away and descended onto the lake. At present, the forces of the Li family were all stationed at White River Stream and Mount Tangdao, leaving the lake rather empty. He rode his light into the main hall and saw Li Jianglong listening to a report from a man dressed in white. The white-robed man was handsome and elegant in bearing. Naturally, it was Fei Qingyi of the Fei family. The Fei family should also be sent to Ziuqui Dao Gate promptly. Fei Qingyi himself can remain for now. Mount Tangdao is short of people after all. When he saw Li Ziming appear in a burst of light, Fei Qingyi dropped to his knees with a thud. Li Jianglong also rose from his seat and bowed, saluting the Taoist master. "Greetings, my lord." Without needing further prompting from Li Ziming, Li Jianglong respectfully reported, "The second group of cultivators from our family is now being led by guest elder Fei. They are preparing to depart to reinforce Jiangbei. After handing over the personnel, Jiangxia will lead people to Mount Tangdao to resist the northern forces." Li Ziming waved his hand and dismissed Fei Qingyi, instead looking at the young man to the side. Li Jianglong immediately stood and introduced him. "This is Jiangzong, a family member. He is a talent of the first lineage and has long served at the side of Lady Minggong. At present, he oversees Qingdu within the prefecture and is the most outstanding among the brothers of the first lineage." Li Ziming had heard of him before. He nodded inwardly at Jiangzong's respectful and calm demeanor. Though he did not seem especially remarkable, expectations were not high now. Having innate ability and being obedient was already good enough. He did not expect Li Ziming to achieve much. Producing someone like Li Jiangzong within the first lineage was already fortunate. Thus he smiled and said, "You have worked hard." "This is the duty of a junior." Li Jianglong immediately bowed and said respectfully, "There was news of a child in my household a few months ago. I was overjoyed, yet I have long been unable to decide on a name. Now that I have seen Taoist Master, I hope you might bestow a name so the child may share a bit of your blessing." "Very well." Li Ziming smiled and shook his head, yet it was indeed good news. After a brief moment of thought, he replied, "This should have been chosen by your father, but since you have asked me, I must respond. With a great war approaching and chaos everywhere and everyone heading north, it would be best to choose a good omen. Then let it be the character Huan, Li Suihuan." Li Jianglong immediately prostrated himself, tears streaming down his face as he said reverently, "My thanks to Taoist Master." Li Ziming glanced over and saw Li Jiangzong looking thoughtful behind Li Jianglong. He nodded inwardly. Even if he does not possess Jianglong's scheming mind, at least he can perceive it. Among the sons of Li Xiaowei, only Li Jiangqian used the Wok radical in his name. The others, including Jianglong and Jiangxia, did not follow the naming pattern at all, and there were even signs that the family records had intentionally obscured the matter. Thus, when Li Jianglong gained a son, choosing a name became a serious issue. By seizing the opportunity and insisting that this Taoist master give the name, even kneeling directly before him, it was clear Li Jianglong simply did not dare act on his own and sought only a name. Li Ziming's feelings were somewhat complicated as he mulled over this small scheme. He simply waved his sleeve and said, "The situation at home is difficult to handle now. You may also have to go north soon. Be careful." To put it more cruelly, aside from Li Jiangqian and Li Qian, there was no one who could not be sacrificed in the struggle with the north. Even if Li Ziming wished to keep the two by his side on the island, he worried that they would never become capable if they spent the year without fighting or struggling between life and death a few times. Reaching the Purple Mansion realm is not something high innate ability alone can accomplish. Without my master, without younger brother Zijin, without all the grievances and hardships our family endured for so many years, how could I have crossed that hurdle? Jiangqian is somewhat better, but Qian has lived too peacefully. She has been protected too well all these years. Letting her do nothing but cultivate would not be right either. He remained silent for a long time before transforming into a stream of light and drifting toward the island. There he saw Li Qian, who was indeed still cultivating and practicing arts. Her cultivation was only a single step away from the middle stage of foundation establishment realm and was very solid. Li Ziming motioned for her to rise and said softly, "You should also go into seclusion for now. There is no need to temper your cultivation further. What comes later will require you to face the enemy." Li Qian's expression turned solemn when she heard this, and she immediately withdrew. The inner formation of the island was soon empty and silent. Li Ziming felt hesitant and thought, "I cannot fully trust leaving her to gain experience either. I would have to watch over her constantly. Forget it. We will take things one step at a time." In the past, the Li family discussed major matters among several Foundation Establishment realm cultivators, and Li Ziming had even been a junior who did not need to guide the overall situation. He only had to fill in the gaps from time to time. Now he alone possessed a divine ability and stood as the sole Taoist master. Those beneath him had many thoughts but dared not speak, and no one dared offer him guidance. Even grandfather speaks to me with hidden caution now. How could I expect anything from the others? He then made his way into the main hall and saw the glazed pagoda of unrestrained boundary. It had already returned to its true form and stood within the hall, with faint ripples of water, fire, wind, and thunder visible within. He transformed into heavenly light and flew into the tower, sealing the entrance with his divine ability. He landed directly on the highest level in the chamber of Northern Palace Thunder. Wrapping a jade talisman in his divine ability, he suspended it within the thunder so that it would break open at the slightest disturbance. Only then did he close his eyes and summon his spiritual sense to connect with the talisman seed within his Shenyang mansion. Tinglin would use a jade talisman to notify him, but the family was now large and their affairs extensive. If a visitor arrived or trouble appeared while Li Qian was in seclusion and the family members came to the tower only to find no one there, it would inevitably cause problems. That was why he set up the jade talisman. If I had a migration command token, it would not be this troublesome. Fortunately, the fate divine ability is now in my hands. In an instant, the scene before his eyes changed completely, and he entered another world. Extremely dense spiritual chi rushed toward him. He sat down within the pure radiance and took out flame-stepping movement. These years of practicing this footwork technique have given me some understanding. With a bit more refinement, I will have truly mastered flame-stepping movement. Mount Tangdao can be left for the supreme Yang Dao lineage to deal with. If Tinglin does not come seeking me, I can continue studying Bright Light Heavenly Surge and Arrayed Palace's Heavenly Yang Escape. One more technique mastered means fewer injuries when the time comes. Chapter 14:18 Ziyu I. Radiant light flickered as clear qi drifted through the air within the pavilion, sun and moon shining together. The man in white golden Taoist robes exhaled a breath of white qi and slowly opened his eyes, causing the clear qi inside the pavilion to ripple. This truly is a treasured land for cultivation. The spiritual qi within this pavilion was the most concentrated he had seen in his entire life. Even the pristine water spirit pool in the Azure Pond sect could not compare to this place. But as he continued cultivating, a sense of shock gradually surfaced in his heart. What truly mattered was not the density of spiritual qi here, but that the spiritual energy here held yin and yang in perfect balance. These words might sound ordinary and were not uncommon to cultivators. The grotto heaven of Green Pine Temple had once claimed the same balance of yin and yang. However, the balance within this pavilion was hard as iron and stone, completely unshakable. One had to know that cultivators and spiritual energy influenced each other. A place might initially have balanced yin and yang with calm spiritual energy, but once someone cast spell arts, cultivated, forged artifacts, or refined pills, the local balance would inevitably be disturbed, causing spiritual energy to rise in some places and fall in others. Yet here, whether Li Ziming released Purple Mansion Realm True Fire or used his divine ability, the surrounding yin and yang qis did not move at all. Even when he sat cross-legged to cultivate and absorbed spiritual qi with the terrifying speed of a Purple Mansion Realm cultivator, not a single inch of the surrounding area underwent any transformation. The spiritual qi remained in perfect and absolute balance. Li Ziming even suspected that if he died here and transformed into bright yang heavenly light, this place would not even show the faintest trace of bright yang qi. There would not even be a single colored cloud. As an alchemist, Li Ziming almost immediately grasped the importance of this terrifying characteristic. This place, if used to refine certain pills or even certain spirit artifacts, would be far too convenient. He silently took note of it and stood up. He felt refreshed and invigorated, his aura surging. Not only had his previous injuries healed, he had also made considerable progress. After a quick calculation, Li Ziming realized with some surprise that he had been in seclusion for more than a full year. This meant the Northern Buddhist faction had not made any major moves during that time, and Tinglin and Ningguan had not encountered any serious trouble. During this year, 70% of Li Ziming's time had been spent on the flame-stepping movement. The flame-stepping movement has already reached the initial stage and can be used in battle. As for Bright Light Heavenly Surge, its cultivation truly progresses quickly. It only took a short time to grasp. Even if its power is not particularly high, at least the direction of this approach is correct. Li Ziming did not expect his spell arts to rival techniques like those of Cheng Xiao or reach the level of a divine ability. It would already be very good if they could merely delay or block for a moment. Now that he had awakened from cultivation, the jade talisman at his waist was quietly warming, clearly signaling that there were matters at home. He stepped across the boundary and appeared within the thunder-filled glazed pagoda of unrestrained boundary. The formidable lightning within felt to him like bathing in warm water. Another step allowed him to pass through and arrive atop Shijing Mountain. He sat down at his seat and extended his spiritual sense. he immediately saw an unfamiliar Taoist master in the small pavilion outside the mountain. Li Jianqian had indeed already come out of seclusion and was politely waiting there. So he called out loudly, "Fellow Taoist, please." The great formation opened, and a stream of gray wind descended from the sky. Carrying a chilling aura, it condensed before them and transformed into a robed Taoist master. His clothing was unusual, and a treasured blade hung at his waist. His eyes were gloomy, and his aura fluctuated unpredictably. There was a faint trace of divine ability lingering about him, as if he were suppressing some transformation. He clearly did not look like someone easy to provoke. Yet now that he had entered another's formation, he showed some courtesy and bowed with clasped hands. "I am Master Dingyang of Lacquer Marsh. Greetings, fellow Taoist." Li Ziming had already guessed that this man was the helper Kueki had brought. He estimated that the man had not yet broken through to the middle stage of the Purple Mansion realm, though he did not know how many divine abilities he possessed. Smiling, he replied, "Please." He then ordered someone to retrieve the shamanic spell art, while he himself guided the Taoist master on a tour around Zhaijing Mountain, even pointing out the traces that once belonged to Mount Wu. Mount Wu had once been plundered, and little remained after so many years. Moreover, Li Ziming had displayed divine ability here, so Master Dingyang clearly had not seen anything that satisfied him. Yet Li Ziming did not ask for anything in return and treated him with great courtesy, giving him ample face. The Taoist master's expression improved considerably, showing a hint of friendliness as he said softly, "What a pity. Although Duanmu Kui was formidable, he was unwilling to pass down his true skills. Mount Wu's reputation was exaggerated." Soon someone carried over a chest of jade slips and set it beside Master Dingyang. The Taoist master sat upright, took the catalogue from Li Ziming's hand, and gained a rough understanding of the shamanic spell arts. His brows alternately furrowed and relaxed. It seemed his gains were nothing remarkable. Li Ziming knew the situation of his own house well. If Mount Wu had truly possessed any powerful shamanic spell arts, they would have taken and used them long ago. What remained were merely mediocre things, which at most offered a few interesting ideas. He simply sipped his tea in silence. Master Dingyang set down the jade slip and said nothing further. It seemed something else weighed on his mind. He casually picked up the jade cup and drained it in one gulp, then said briskly, "I would like to take a look at the Dharma artifact." Li Ziming handed over the jade box. The cultivator opened it, his eyes lighting up as he praised, "A fine treasure." The item from Southern Shun Raksha was clearly of excellent quality. He lifted it and examined it carefully for a long time. A trace of reluctance even appeared on his face as he said quietly, "If fellow Taoist is willing, I would like to exchange for this item." How could Li Ziming allow him to exchange for it? He politely declined with a few words. Master Dingyang also knew it was unlikely he would obtain it, so he gave up readily and said straightforwardly, "The Hui upper sect has already spoken to me about this matter. I have long considered it, so there is no need for further courtesy." He said in a deep voice, "The refinement of this artifact may take many years, whether sooner or later. My side has few people. We do not have workshops as large as yours by the lake, nor do we possess resources as abundant as Moongay's. Since the refinement will continue year after year, provisions and materials should naturally be supplied by Moongay's." Li Ziming sighed inwardly upon hearing the words Hui upper sect. That is only proper. Master Dingyang continued, "The Dao lineage of Lacquer Marsh is constrained under the Changhui upper sect. Many methods are missing, and our pills are even more lacking. I myself am not skilled in alchemy, so I will say a bit more to fellow Taoist this time. After refining artifacts for so many years, I hope fellow Taoist can send one essence gathering pill to Lacquer Marsh each year. Once the spirit embryo is completed, you must also provide me with 6 Purple Mansion Realm Serpent Water Suspension Powder. As for the pill formula and the primary ingredients, I have already brought them." "Oh." Li Ziming smiled slightly. With his alchemical art, the essence-gathering pill posed no difficulty at all. As for the Viper Water Suspension Powder, he could first examine the pill formula. Calmly accepting it, he studied it carefully, a spirit pill that cleanses the eyes and heart while enhancing cultivation. It would be extremely difficult for ordinary cultivators, and its use is rather limited. If one cannot guarantee 6 pills, wasting someone's primary ingredients would certainly offend them. Its difficulty was not even as great as the heavenly quintessence-expelling pill. Li Ziming himself had some surplus. Why would he refuse? After glancing through it, he happily accepted and said with a smile, "Good." That single word was crisp and decisive, making Master Dingyang regard him more highly. He set the jade slip and jade box on the table, collected the Dharma artifact and shamanic spell arts, and cupped his hands as he said, "There is still a spirit artifact refining in my furnace, and it is extremely important. though several apprentices are watching over it. I cannot stay away from Lacquer Marsh for long, but rest assured, fellow Taoist. I will set up another furnace and supervise them together. I will certainly handle this matter well. I will not stay longer here. If fate allows, we shall talk again another day. Only then did Li Ziming understand why his speech had been so brief and direct. His expression had not been very good when he first arrived on the mountain either. He was likely worried about the spirit artifact back at home. Li Ziming quickly escorted him out and sighed inwardly. Qiuqi certainly has great influence. The Hui upper sect. They invited him to the lake with a single word. If there were truly something important and promises were made, Master Dingyang would find it difficult to refuse. If not for the spirit artifact currently refining in his furnace, Qiuqi would likely have already brought him here to deal with the Buddhist cultivators. Chapter 14:19, Ziyu II. Moongai's Lake. Thunder rumbled and lightning flickered as heavy dark clouds spread across the lake, reflecting on the water like ink. Several commoners fled across the lake in small boats, and after a short while cultivators emerged to receive them. Apricot-colored flames fluttered and gathered in midair. A man in a crimson robe stepped upon the fire, gazing toward the distant mountain peaks. Unease lingered in his eyes as he watched the heavenly signs. As he waited, thunder exploded across the sky and a faint light flashed. A bolt of lightning rushed forward, illuminating a burly man. The man was tall and powerfully built, with thick hair and an extremely robust physique. He wore jade armor, and two bronze bells the size of fists hung from his waist. His expression was spirited as he shouted, "Family head." Li Zhongqian clasped his hands and let out a breath of relief. There were still guests on the mountain, so when the sky had suddenly darkened, he had feared that the Purple Mansion Realm cultivators had failed to reach an agreement and started fighting. Now that he knew it was someone from his own family breaking through, he quickly smiled and said, "Congratulations, family uncle." The man before him was naturally Li Zhaoda, the one who had inherited Li Chenghui's legacy and lineage. After enduring for so many years, he had finally succeeded. Now that he had reached the Foundation Establishment realm, he was full of pride and satisfaction. He raised his hand as if to say something, paused for a long time, and finally said, "How exhilarating." Li Zhongqian could not help but laugh as he welcomed him down. "Family uncle has broken through at just the right time. Congratulations, congratulations." Li Zhaoda had spent quite a long time reaching the Foundation Establishment realm. It seemed the pills had played a significant role. Without the family's provisions and medicinal pills, the chances of this man reaching Foundation Establishment realm would truly have been low. As time passed, rumors of his death had even begun to circulate. Li Zhaoda had only just come out of seclusion and naturally knew nothing of this. In high spirits, he simply laughed loudly and replied, "The ancestors have truly blessed me. I once feared I was incapable and would fail to continue the lineage. Now this is a great joy. When I return, I will host a grand banquet. All the lineages of the family must come and share a drink." He was clearly not a reserved person. Pride filled his face as cultivators of the family gradually gathered around. Li Zhongqian stepped aside with a faint smile, his gaze sweeping across the crowd as if counting people. Li Zhongqian had been out of seclusion for more than half a year. Not only had he broken through to the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, he had also stabilized his cultivation. In truth, if he took the talisman pill, advancing to the late stage of the Foundation Establishment realm would be easily within reach. Yet with so many eyes watching, doing so would appear unreasonable, so he had refrained. During this time after leaving seclusion, he had rarely taken up family affairs and focused carefully on cultivating spell arts. The Great Radiant Book was already an excellent Dao lineage. His radiant expression showed that his progress in cultivation and spell arts had been quite good. As everyone celebrated, the heavy layers of black qi gradually dispersed. The eastern sky grew dim and a faint purple glow appeared. A streak of heavenly light leaped out from the lake and manifested as a figure nearby. Everyone hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, "Greetings, Taoist master." "Not bad." The figure who manifested was none other than Li Ziming, who had just returned after seeing someone off. He nodded toward Li Zhaoda in approval, yet his gaze remained fixed on the distance, half surprised and half solemn. What a vast stretch of purple clouds. Heavenly signs were never simple matters. The clouds in the east were thick with purple hues, piled together like stacked tiles filling the sky. When the morning glow shone upon them, they turned into a festive and magnificent field of purple and gold. For the moment he could not think too much about it and simply gave an order, "You all settle things here properly. I will go take a look." He transformed into light and headed east. After only a few steps, he arrived above the bustling scene of Yufu Prefecture. Cultivators rose and fell through the air, whispering among themselves and quietly discussing matters. divine abilities flickered in the sky as a man in a brown-gray robe drifted forward.
Senior Hufu.
Taoist Master Hufu was nodding repeatedly in admiration. When he saw Li Ziming, he descended from the clouds to greet him and gestured for him to come closer, praising him as he spoke. It is a great matter. The divine ability has been achieved. Those simple words made everything clear. Li Ziming had already harbored some suspicion in his heart and was overjoyed upon hearing them verified. Clapping his hands, he said, "Good, good indeed. The purple smoke-blessed land truly possesses deep fortune." Purple chi swirled and rose from the blessed land. A woman appeared within it, wearing garments wreathed in violet mist. A long purple jade sword was strapped to her back. Her face was delicate as she bowed in midair with a smile. Ziyu greets all fellow Taoists. Standing before her was Tinglin, dressed in autumn yellow robes. Her joy was even more evident as she said, "This is Can Ziyu, Dao title Wenking. Today she has successfully achieved a divine ability." Everyone began offering congratulations. Can Ziyu was equally full of joy and followed Tinglin in returning greetings to each of them. The blessed land was filled with celebration, with light shining everywhere.
Can Ziyu.
Li Ziming calculated silently. Strictly speaking, Can Ziyu belonged at least to the same generation as his great-uncle Li Xuanfeng, while he himself should be of the same generation as Qianlizi. Yet Jiangnan did not pay much attention to such distinctions. Unless they were of the same sect, seniority depended on who achieved divine ability first and who possessed greater attainment. Thus Taoist Master Wenking still came to salute him. Taoist Master Tinglin looked around and smiled. Ziyu still needs time to nourish her cultivation and stabilize her divine ability. Many thanks to all fellow Taoists. Li Ziming was clearly pleased and sighed inwardly. This is truly help in a time of need. By that calculation, there were quite a few geniuses of the same generation as Can Ziyu. Aside from those in seclusion at the Azure Pond sect, there was also Lin Chensheng of Ziyuqi, who cultivated the supreme shaman Dao. It was still a mist. Whether he had successfully broken through to the Purple Mansion realm. As he pondered this, he suddenly realized that Hufu should have been in the Great Western Plains. He could not help asking, "Senior, the matters in the West." Hufu looked at him with a smile and replied, "The supreme Yang Dao lineage taking turns guarding this place has always been the established rule, but I have stayed here long enough to grow weary of it. After discussing it several times with the Sword Gate, we arranged a handover with Ziyuqi Dao Gate. The Sword Gate will take over the duty for the remaining years, and we have also invited Taoist Master Nai of Wu State to assist. When the next cycle comes, we can repay the favor." Li Ziming smiled and said, "That is indeed a good method." The Sword Gate was rigid by nature and had that sword scripture suppressing matters. Although there were two Taoist masters, Li Ziming had never once seen the Taoist master surnamed Cheng meet with the supreme Yang Dao lineage. This alone made his stance clear. He evidently preferred seclusion. The only one truly inclined to change the situation was Ling Mei. Under such circumstances, Ling Mei faced considerable resistance if he wished to act. This exchange of duties was clearly a subtle form of assistance. Li Ziming nodded inwardly, and they even drew in Taoist Master Nai. Indeed, the Taoist masters of the supreme Yang Dao lineage clearly did not waste a moment when I was in seclusion. They have been constantly accumulating strength. As he pondered this, Tinglin approached riding purple chi. Can Ziyu's breakthrough had clearly been beyond her expectations. Even with her usual composure, she could not fully hide her joy as she smiled and said, "Zheajing has come out of seclusion." Li Ziming smiled and nodded. He followed as she indicated they should head toward Mount Tangdao together. Ningguan has gone to the Shawang Kingdom and then on to the Southern Sea. She is not here at the moment. Her expression turned serious as she said, "After all, whether it is the Shawang Kingdom or Southern Shun Raksha, there are personal connections there. It is worth making inquiries. If the chance arises, they may provide support." Li Ziming nodded to show he understood. Mount Tangdao had already appeared before them. A layer of dark radiance covered the mountain, overlapping and transforming into various shapes of light. An ancient aura rushed toward them. Tinglin and Ningguan had not constructed a full Purple Mansion realm grand formation as the Li family had done. After all, building such a formation was no simple task, and this place was not the mountain gate of any particular sect, so it was unnecessary. Instead, they used a Purple Mansion realm formation plate spirit artifact for protection and amplified the formation nodes with their mastery of formations, which created quite an impressive display. Yet when Li Ziming saw this scene, he sighed inwardly, so it truly is a spirit artifact from the Dao lineage of the great Ziyuqi temple. It seems Kueki was right. Their trip to the Northern Sea returned without success. Chapter 14:20, Strategic Calculations I. Since the Dao lineage of the Northern Sea refused to lend the spirit artifact, Li Ziming did not press the matter further or ask after Qiuqi's whereabouts. Instead, he mentioned Master Dingyang and headed up the mountain together with the others. Master Dingyang, whom Senior Qiuqi invited, has already come to the lake. The matter has been discussed and settled. He left a pill formula, serpent water suspension powder, and asked me to refine it. The great hall atop Mount Tangdao had long since been repaired. Tinglin looked fully recovered from her injuries and led everyone into the hall. As she listened to the mention of Master Dingyang, Hufu shook his head and said, "He can be somewhat lacking in tact. If he caused any offense, please forgive him, Zheajing." Ziming understood the implication. When he saw Tinglin secretly glance at his expression, seemingly worried that Master Dingyang might have had some dispute with Qiuqi, he simply said, "That fellow does have ties to the Supreme Yang, but he has never been known for a gentle temperament. After being disappointed with Changhui for so long, it is only natural he has become somewhat blunt." Yet when Senior Qiuqi wrote to him, he immediately agreed, which shows his heart still leans toward our side. Just overlook his sour expression. Though the two spoke as if it were serious, Li Ziming had spent some time with Master Dingyang and found that the man did possess some social graces. There had been no particularly harsh words or unpleasant attitude, so he said, "Master Dingyang is a straightforward man. He handles matters efficiently and with great energy. He sorted everything out in just a few moves." When they entered the hall, they saw a jade table set at the main seat, with seats arranged on both sides. There were no dancers or fine wine, just an ordinary hall. The man seated at the head looked fairly relaxed and nodded at them. "Senior Qiuqi." Kanziyu's breakthrough was undoubtedly like a dose of medicine. Even Qiuqi's expression looked much better. After everyone took their seats, Qiuqi spoke up first to offer congratulations. "Congratulations, fellow Taoist." Tinglin returned the courtesy with a smile. Li Ziming watched him turn and calmly say, "I originally went to the Northern Sea. The Chuoba family borrowed the formation plate of the Zai family's magnet-controlled multi-light spirit formation 30 years ago. That thing cannot be obtained now." These words left everyone somewhat silent. The Chuoba family was not particularly close with the Buddhist cultivators, yet being in the north, they interacted frequently. Meanwhile, the supreme Yang Dao lineage and the Chuoba family had never seen eye to eye, so there was naturally no possibility of borrowing it from them. Qiuqi paused before continuing. "After returning from the Northern Sea, I went to the Peacock Sea. This time it was a formal visit, so it was conducted with some ceremony. Now that I have returned, I at least received the good news of Ziyu." Li Ziming had been to the Peacock Sea before, so he knew that the visit was to the grand Taoist master of the Nine Mounds Dao lineage, who maintained close ties with the supreme Yang Dao lineage. Tinglin spoke up. "Several merciful ones and master monks have already arrived outside the mountain in recent days. Though no Mahas have appeared, there are quite a few lesser figures, and they do not lack the courage to provoke us. Foundation establishment realm cultivators below fight every day. Casualties are inevitable, but for now they remain within acceptable limits. None of the direct descendants from the various families have suffered major losses. The enemy's merciful ones have acted 3 times in total, each time sending 3 or 4 of them to lead the formation. They withdraw as soon as they probe, clearly testing the manpower within the formation. Judging from the golden bodies, at least Daisy and Nuzi have been driven here like hounds and horses. I see no sign of other Dao lineages, but there were traces of a Buddha land contained within the body. It is most likely the Compassion Dao." As the dominant power of Yan State and the most active Dao among the northern Buddhists, the appearance of the Compassion Dao was clearly not good news. It made Li Ziming frown, yet the others showed little surprise, as if it were only to be expected. The last conflict between North and South was also led by the Compassion Dao. Tinglin looked seriously at Li Ziming and said, "There is no sense in waiting day after day for them to come knocking at our door. Since Zheajing has come out of seclusion and Senior have returned, we should lead a force ourselves and test their strength." The 2-year deadline was approaching, and everyone tacitly avoided mentioning the Sword Immortal Taoist Master Luing. Although the Sword Immortal's deterrence had not yet fully faded, Taoist Master Luing had already ascended Luoxia and perished there. The North would be well aware of this, meaning the supposed deterrence no longer existed. Therefore, before that moment arrived, it would be best to probe the enemy's strength. Purple Smoke Gate had gained Kanziyu, which meant an additional trump card, but the Buddhist cultivators of the North were not blind. Their abilities in deduction were stronger than most immortal cultivators, and they surely already knew about it. Once matters broke out, it was possible that the North would arrive before Mount Tangdao even moved. In truth, it would have been best if Luing had hung on to one last breath and remained like a withered bone in a tomb, keeping news of his death concealed. Yet the old man has already given everything in this life. He fulfilled his wish and slew a Maha before dying, which was already a great effort. How could he be troubled further for the sake of Ziyuqi Dao Gate? Qiuqi's expression gradually darkened. I have long made preparations for this. Before he could finish, a white-robed cultivator passed through the formation. A sword was strapped to his back, and he wore the attire of a Taoist. Handsome and imposing, his aura surged powerfully. It was none other than Taoist Master Zhosheng, the Jade True Sword cultivator from the southern border. After entering the formation, he bowed to the group and said with a smile, "Greetings, fellow Taoists." Li Ziming returned the salute and nodded silently, understanding dawning in his heart as he thought, so that is how it is. The supreme Yang Dao lineage had already discussed matters beforehand and was simply waiting for the right moment to act. However, Qiuqi is a proud man who would never allow others to act for nothing. He brought up the matter of the spirit embryo and specifica. Eli invited Master Dingyang, making him set aside the spirit artifacts in his furnace and agree to my matter before anything else. Originally, he should have had another 3 to 5 days. Ningguan would have returned from the south. All the helpers would have gathered, and then they would formally invite me up the mountain. But Can Ziyu suddenly broke through. Since everyone has already met, they invited me over directly, which is why Ningguan is nowhere to be seen. His heart tightened as he thought. They even invited Taoist Master Zhosheng from the distant southern border. If they are willing to lower their pride this much, how could the closer Chunyi Dao Gate not come? Chen Yin of the Chen family of Yuyang Prefecture is even easier to call upon. Southern Shun Raksha is harder to say. If Ningguan sets aside Dao lineage considerations for a moment, how could Taoist Master Luo refuse to come? Qiuqi is a man of great resolve. Once he seized Mount Tangdao, he committed himself with full force. Unless the Buddhist cultivators are struck hard, he will never withdraw his blade. The Jade True Taoist Master then asked, "May I ask where Taoist Master Zhugong is now?" Tinglin replied with some embarrassment, "It is hard to say. I asked several times but found no trace of her. She has probably entered seclusion." That was not particularly strange. Li Ziming pondered inwardly. It was unlikely that Taoist Master Zhugong remained unaware of the situation in Jiangnan. Perhaps she was seizing the opportunity to slip away. In any case, her mountain gate lay near Purple Smoke Gate, with the capital Immortal Dao bearing the brunt before her. Hardening her heart and not returning would be the wisest course. Even if she did come, it would not be easy to reveal it. If Chunyi Dao Gate were present, Zhugong's origins in the Eastern Sea could never truly be washed clean. It would be one thing if she were still at full strength, but if she bore injuries, how could she dare to reveal herself? Li Ziming now understood Ningguan's purpose in traveling to the Southern Sea. He watched as Qiuqi rose with his hands behind his back and said, "Mount Tangdao lies between two regions. To the north stretch the lower Luo Plains, backed by the fertile lands of White River Stream. It is truly a strategic gate between north and south. To the west it connects to Zaioushi, to the east to Chengyun. We hold the terrain advantage, reinforced by a great formation and commanding the heights. The Buddhist cultivators' forces are scattered across the north and cannot easily concentrate. The mountain itself divides northward into 3 ridges, which alone will trouble them greatly. Lotus Temple has not intervened yet. The nearest Buddhist sect lies at Kinling Mountain, which is far from here. Thus they have established temples in the regions of Zaioushi, Lower Luo, and Timber Mountain, corresponding respectively to the west, north, and east." Qiuqi finished gravely. The 3 locations must each be guarded. Timber Mountain connects with Chengyun, so Zhejiang will go there. Mount Zaioushi will be left to Tinglin. As for us, we will strike straight in from the north and begin with a battle. Qiuqi's plan contained little elaborate calculation. After all, distance meant almost nothing to Purple Mansion Realm cultivators. Without another Purple Mansion Realm cultivator holding them back, crossing the Great Void would take hardly any time. Li Ziming, who possessed the Heaven Venerating Gate, and Tinglin, who held the Purple Throne Serene Spirit Pavilion, were naturally the most suitable for such tasks. One would go west and the other east, tying down the Buddhist cultivators' forces, while Qiuqi and the others pushed deep inside to destroy the northern Buddhist forces of considerable scale. After considering the matter, Li Ziming replied, "If you have instructions, simply summon me with a jade talisman. I obtained some Buddhist cultivator implements earlier. I may be able to make a trip to Chengyun with them." Qiuqi smiled and said, "Of course, I was just about to mention it. Someone should inform the Chengyun side. Given Timber Mountain's position, if the situation turns unfavorable, we may need to trouble them to provide you with support. As for the glazed radiance cassia in your hand, it is no ordinary item. Lotus Temple has already mentioned it and even sent someone to inquire. Their people are also around Chengyun Gate, so it should naturally be possible to exchange it for something good."